Wow, must be getting popular. I've got 3 people watching already. Fantastic stuff. Oh, so let me just say we're doing a retro review. I've got my brother from another mother waiting to come online right now. We're going to be talking all things Robin Hood, but we're going to cover a couple of other things as well. So without any further ado, it's 8:30 in the morning there.
It is 8:30 in the morning on a freezing cold Melbourne day.
Yeah.
And glad to be back on talking movies.
Is that some kind of like snood item you're wearing?
Snood?
Yeah, is that sort of like a I guess you call it like a hoodie, but it's
yeah, it's a hoodie. Actually, I'm wearing 2 hoodies because it's so cold.
Hence the confusion. I thought it was like one of those kind of bathrobes. It's like also a hoodie, also
no.
kind of a tent.
No, it's a really thick hoodie over another hoodie. I'm so cold, I have to wear 2 hoodies.
I feel like I've been disinformed by the Australian Tourist Board, because I'm largely led to believe that your country is hot and very tropical, and that I wouldn't need to wear 2 hoodies if I was living.
It depends where you live. I live at the bottom. It's all geographical, mate. Australia is so big. You have so many different types of things. You know, so many different time of climates. Yeah. So, but because I live at the bottom down on Melbourne, I'm not that far from Antarctica, so it's cold. It gets really cold. Hey, Jim D is back with us. Jim D
is. We've had people popping in and out constantly over the last few minutes. I must have had a couple of dozens. Don't know what's going on there. Well, look, guys, thanks for tuning in. If you've got any comments, questions as we go, for either myself or Matthew, don't forget we both work in the industry, although we sometimes feel like we don't. We can come on to that if you want.
You know, I feel like I'm rudely pushing through a door into the industry, but they keep trying to stay out. Oh, I mean, I'm coming. I've got my elbow in. I've got my foot in.
I feel like I'm being ejected out of the anus of the industry right now, having gone through it. And I
feel like I'm going back that other way.
Okay, well,
while you're going out, I'm trying to make my way through the anus. Oh, come on, let me in.
I think that's why Matt and I are such good friends. We have this kind of like second language where we know exactly what we're talking about, even though it may seem strange to outsiders. So, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. We're here to talk about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Robin Hood. Lots of films called
Robin Hood.
Of course, he's got the Blu-rays. I mean, you know, I think I've got Robin Hood in the other room. Now, I bought it, I think, from the States, so I think mine's an American one. I might nip and get it in a sec.
Yeah, I've got the Arrow release, which
of course you have.
Of the Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which comes with a director's cut. I think this is a UK version. Yeah, it's a UK version, and this is a German. The only Blu-ray that I've found of the 91 Robin Hood is a German copy. Well, which is really awesome. I put this on a few nights ago to rewatch it for this.
Right.
So I put the Blu-ray in, and just as it starts playing, the trailer to Ben Hall starts.
Oh.
Because this company released Ben Hall.
Oh, that's so crazy. So the trailer for your movie is on the Patrick Bergen German release of
Robin Hood.
That's nuts. And was that the first time you'd actually stuck it on and watched it?
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Well,
and I was like, nice. Oh, wow. My movie is the trailer. Is the trailer before Robin Hood. That was a nice little. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyone who likes westerns, do check out Matt's. I think it's his 3rd feature film, if I remember rightly.
That's second. It depends if you include my The Biscuit Effect, my experimental comedy. If you include that, it's technically a feature.
If in doubt, always include The Biscuit Effect is my motto of the day. Hasn't been a motto up until now.
I don't know. It never got any kind of official release, so I don't really count it as an official feature.
Okay, all right. Well, that's why I was called The Journey, my first one, and that still hasn't had an official release technically. Well, I mean, it's released.
It's had much more of a release than The Biscuit Effect has had. That's for sure.
That's true. Let's talk about the actor Ray Stevenson before we do all things Robin Hood. I feel we should.
Yeah, an actor I'm actually not very familiar with. I saw lots of, and I even looking at him, all the photos that went up yesterday, I was not, I couldn't place him. Yeah.
Well, I forgot. I was saying to George, who I think you might have been on a show with George on this channel. I was saying to George, I'd heard Ray Stevenson was a really nice guy, and blah 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 blah. And then, my memory is very patchy because of my brain damage and shit. But I was thinking about it a bit more. And then I thought, no, hang on a minute. No, I met this guy. And I remember I met him not once, but twice. I met him at wasn't a networking event, but it was some kind of, I think there was some kind of film screening, and he was a friend of one of the directors there or something. And this was around the time he had shot a sequel to a film called Outpost, or The Outpost. Or maybe he did the original Outpost. I forget which. I'm going to get his IMDb up so I can. Anyway, I got talking with him, bottom line. And we were having a little bit of a chat. He seemed like a really nice guy. And then, of course, as I often do, next time I meet up with Jason Fleming, I'll always say, I met so-and-so or whatever. And Jason had met him many times and had nothing but good things to say about him. And he didn't get into acting until the sort of mid-90s. He did a show called Band of Gold, which has another person I know, Kathy Tyson, who, funnily enough, I saw when I went clubbing not that long ago. And that's a series about a group of prostitutes who kind of get together and start a business. It was a very good show. It launched the career of Samantha Morton, who I'm sure you must have seen in things, Matt.
I remember Samantha one. Yeah.
Yeah. So Band of Gold was a pretty interesting show. I think it ran for about 3 or 4 seasons. And I just can you see that on the screen now?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's Kathy Tyson with, I think that's Geraldine James, if I remember rightly. And Kathy and I go to the same 80s dance club, but Kathy gave me a lift in her taxi one time when we both got stuck at a bus stop and there were like no buses in sight. And she kind of vaguely knew me because she used to come in and drink tea at the theatre where I was the writer in residence. And then she knew somebody in one of my plays and she came to see one of my plays. So so she's a North Londoner. I sort of know her to say hello to. I can't say we're close friends or anything. But Samantha Morton was also in that show. So you can see Ray Stevenson there. That was kind of him starting out. Look who else was in it. Lena Headey. The late, great Tony Doyle, who was an absolutely cracking actor. I mean, we really are going down a rabbit hole here, so I won't go too far. But going back to Ray Stevenson, I mean, I'm just trying to think of what might have been the first thing you probably would have seen him in.
Well, looking at all this stuff,
weren't you a fan of Rome? Didn't you watch Rome?
I know. I haven't seen all of it. I reckon I know what I've seen him in. I saw him in the King Arthur film with Clive Owen.
That film was a bit so-so.
It was a bit all over the shop, but he was one of his soldiers, wasn't he? He was like the big burly guy.
Dagonet,
like, yeah. So that's where I know I've seen him, but that would probably be the only one. Looking at all of these, I haven't really seen anything else. I have not seen the Thor movies. I have not seen.
I know you like your historical stuff, which is why I thought you might have caught him in Rome.
I started watching Rome, but I only got a couple of episodes in, and my interest kind of waned a bit, and I never got back to it. But
it's a little bit slow. I'll be honest. It's a little bit slow. First season really warms up towards the end of the first season. Second season was really good, and then of course they cancelled it.
Yeah.
Which is a real shame. But of course, I went to the Rome before you did, and when I was there, I remember shouting down Facebook saying, "Oh, Matt, you've got to go to Cinecittà. They've got the set for Rome. You're going to love it." And you were there for a few days. I don't think I'm going to have time. No. You definitely got to go. You got to go and see that set. You did go, didn't you?
I did. Yes, we went and saw it. It was just a magnificent, beautiful set. So
Weren't you wandering around it going, "Oh, if only I had the money"?
yeah,
Because I know I was.
yeah. It would Imagine that playing in that kind of playground, in that kind of sandbox.
Yeah, that would have been a lot of fun. I mean, one of the reasons I really want to give Ray a shout out, and I mean, look, this guy is only 6 years older than me, man. So it's kind of is a bit
It's
of
very young. Do they? I don't know. I haven't followed it up. Has any reason or cause been given?
The story I heard was he fell ill on set while filming. He was rushed into hospital. He was in for 2 days and then he passed away. Now, he was in Black Sails, which is a show. That's another show that it took me a while to get into, but when I got into it, I liked it.
Yeah, I haven't started or even attempted Black Sails yet.
I think that's one that, like, if you went snowboarding with some friends and you decided snowboarding wasn't for you and you were stuck in the cabin and you saw a Blu-ray box set of it and that was the only thing, you'd probably have fun watching it in those circumstances. That's quite a specific scenario, of course.
So it's, if you've got nothing else, it'll certainly do the trick.
It's very watchable. I think for someone who's got, I like my Cutlasses and Pirates films. I actually, funny enough, guilty pleasure. I actually really quite liked Cutthroat Island with Matthew Modine.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too.
Do you have the Blu-ray of that? Because I want to get the Blu-ray.
Do. Yeah, I got it from. I had to get it from the States though.
Right.
No, I like Cutthroat Island, and I like only the first Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know. There's something about Black Sails that just really didn't sort of put me off. I don't know.
I know.
Felt too modern or something.
No, I know what put you off Black Sails. What put you off was the main set is predominantly. I mean, it's got a lot of buildings and stuff, but it's predominantly a fake blue screen or green screen set, and the lighting on that set feels very artificial and very wrong. So,
well, that's interesting, and that's a little bit because I know. Well, I don't know him, but I one of the key cinematographers. I was originally going to do a film of mine before. So yeah, interesting.
Well, I think I mean, it may or may not be the fault of the cinematographer, but I think it's got a very modern veneer. It's like you said, it doesn't feel like it's set in the period. It feels like it is very comic booky, and it took me a while to warm to that. But in the end, some of the performances of the actors, particularly this guy on the left here, picture with Ray Stevenson, who plays a character called, I think he's called Devane or Dwayne or something. I call him the Australian Danny Webb, but because he really looks like Danny. He was particularly good in it. There's Ray Stevenson again. That's a great shot of him.
There's quite a few Australians in this show,
yeah.
And there's a particular Australian actor in it who plays. I think he plays Blackbeard.
I think Ray Stevenson.
Luke Arnold, his name is, Australian actor.
Luke Arnold.
And he plays Long John Silver or something.
Okay, is he good?
Oh, well, I don't know. I've not actually seen him in Black Sails.
I mean, is he a good actor in general? I guess is where I was going with that.
I haven't actually seen him in any Australian films, not that I can recall.
Right. Well, it looks like Ray Stevenson is playing a major bad guy in the Ahsoka Star Wars series, and as somebody who will freely admit has a serious crush on Rosario Dawson, I am quite looking forward to seeing that show.
Has he wrapped up his filming? Has he finished his scene?
Yeah, that's all done. So I'm hoping against hope, because Disney's track record not very good lately, but I'm hoping against hope that gives him a nice good send off. He was also in that surprise hit from India, RRR, and played a bad guy in that. It's a good film, by the way, Matt, if you haven't seen it. I mean, it's a batshit crazy.
I've heard some good things about it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is it's Asian cinema on speed. It's like all the filmmakers got in a room, were locked in there with some considerable amount of cocaine, and said, right, what's the most zany, crazy story we can come up with that no one will ever seen before, and we're going to push the limits of absolutely everything that's possible. And this was the one they came up with, man fights tiger and so forth. But Ray Stevenson is really good in RRR. I mean, I wanted to give him a shout out more than anything because everybody I know who's worked with him has said he's absolutely lovely. Oh, well, we've got a couple of people. Independent, low budget filmmaker Oliver, I'm definitely coming to your play. Lance Hollingdale is in the chat. And Oliver, I definitely am coming to your play. Lance Hollingdale is definitely coming to my play, which is good, isn't it, Ollie? So, yeah, I just, I feel, this guy's got 3 young kids, man. I mean, look, I know people die in the world every day and all that, but I guess this is somebody who's part of the community several rungs above us. But when I met him, he was extremely nice to me, and I didn't get a kind of I didn't get that vibe of kind of, who are you, you're not important. And that's always nice when an actor gives you that energy, wherever they might meet you, whoever they are, regardless of their status. And so that immediately for me marked him as someone I wanted to work with. So I'm a bit gutted that he's no longer with us, sadly.
Yeah. No, it is sad. It's way too early, and certainly a premature loss. Seems like a very nice dude.
Well, on to more cheerful topics, although doubtless we're going to be giving Alan Rickman a similar shout out, who definitely died far too young. Jim D, King Arthur was great, different spin on the story, awesome cast. I agree with you on one of those 3, that the cast was a very good cast. I wasn't convinced that the story was that great. You always know a film's in trouble when they change the marketing campaign midstream. And
it was a good looking movie, and it had some lovely actors, and it had some great costumes and sets. It was just a very muddled movie. Like, it didn't quite.
Yeah,
it was muddled.
The plot was a mess,
and the direction was, again, and it's actually something that I'm going to talk about with Robin Hood.
We could do an Excalibur and King Arthur comparison. That would be another interesting one.
Yeah, Excalibur. That's a
jot that down for a potential future show. I mean, Excalibur is
the King Arthur face off.
Yeah, the King Arthur face off. There we go. We got another one already.
Yeah, well, there's quite a few King Arthur films, but I honestly don't think any of them have truly stuck the landing. I know Excalibur's considered the best of them, but I don't think any King Arthur film has truly. I think
the one that's probably the most fun, but certainly hasn't done it right, was probably the Sean Connery First Night one.
Yeah, I watched that again recently, and that's
it's fun.
It's pretty hammy. It's pretty.
Is it dated? I haven't seen it in over 15 years. Is it dated really badly?
It feels very fake.
There's a lot of like modernism stuff, like commandos in sheep's clothing suddenly, and lots of people with these miniature crossbows that seem to have incredible penetration rates and distance. And
it feels extremely phony.
It's very film. First Night Special Forces, isn't it?
Yeah, and just the costumes and production design. You do not believe that you are looking at an old time. You simply believe you're looking at beautiful actors on sound stages, and you don't believe it. So,
hey, Darth Plato, good to see you, mate. We are just about to get on to the Robin Hoods now, but we're bashing about on talking about the late great Ray Stevenson. Obviously, Matt's about to do his eulogy on Rolf Harris, having lost one of his favourite Australian.
So, on behalf of all of Australia, let me do the eulogy for Rolf Harris. The guy's dead. Who cares? Moving on. All right.
Yeah, I think that about covers it, right?
That's about it. That's about how Australians feel about Rolf Harris. The guy's a national disgrace, and we just want to forget that ever happened.
It's it's one of those things where, like, as a kid, he used to do this thing called Rolf Harris's Cartoon Time. You probably didn't get that in America, but it was they'd show like 3 cartoons, and Rolf Harris would kind of draw one of the creatures from each cartoon as a segue before he would introduce the next one. And he'd sort of be drawing this thing, and the classic line was, "Can you tell what it is yet?" And I was always trying to copy what he was drawing and guess it as it went along. And that was a big part of my childhood. And now he's fucking ruined it for me.
Yeah.
So
He's ruined many childhoods, lots of songs, lots of movies, lots of television memories, books, all this stuff. And he was like, before it all came out, Rolf Harris was considered this sort of, rather quaint, but well regarded and well remembered. And
there were never any like rumors about him or anything, were there?
I don't recall. But once it all came out, I mean, everything Rolf Harris, as far as Australia is concerned, everything went in the bin.
Yeah.
And that's really where we would want to keep it.
Same with the Brits. Now, moving on to Robin Hood. Do we want to do Prince of Thieves first, or do we want to do Patrick Bergin's Robin Hood first? Tough call.
I think let's start with Kevin Costner's.
Well, I've got more to say about that one, so I'm all down with that, man.
So I think let's talk about Kevin Costner's one first. That's the one that everyone's familiar with, and I think that gives us a good thing to compare it to when we then talk about the next one.
So let's do the personal.
I don't know. Start with the good news first.
Let's do the personal thing, right? Where did you see this film? When? Under what circumstances? I know exactly. I can tell you exactly where I saw it.
I can tell you when I saw it. My life in the early 90s was not anything like my life today, as most people's not. But I grew up in an extremely hyper-religious world.
This is known in your calendar as 2000 BN, so 2000 before Nadia.
That's right. It was a long time ago. Hyper-religious, very strict Christian upbringing. Television, movies, Hollywood were, get away from me, Satan.
Oh, shit, man.
And Robin Hood was a film I was not allowed to go see at the cinema because it was rated M or something. So I wasn't allowed to go see it at the cinema. There was a lot of hype around it. I was dying to see it as however old I was, but I wasn't allowed to. But eventually, finally convinced my parents, who really against the rules, snuck out to the video store, hired it, and we all watched. Dad watched it first, and then he decided, okay, you can watch it. It doesn't have anything in it that's too bad. And we were allowed to watch it. And I saw it on VHS on a TV screen about this big. And because we didn't even have a television in our home. We weren't allowed to have a TV in our home. My dad used to bring home a TV and a video machine from the school he worked at.
I mean, I don't want to get down too much of a rabbit hole, but I mean, considering the man I know you are now, you had a bit of a lucky escape there, really, with that.
I did indeed have a bit of a lucky
culty,
escape.
right? I mean,
it was very culty. It was a cult.
Right.
It was a cult, and but
There's
I
a name
hated
for that, isn't there? Someone that's like escaped from a cult and turned out okay, or is that just Matthew Holmes? I don't know.
I don't know, but I hated it and got out of it when I hit adulthood, and then I was like, right, I'm out of here. But
good for you,
because I wanted to make I want to make movies. That was my passion as a child, and that to go and make movies was like going to work for the enemy.
Yeah, you can't make movies if you're in a cult. I mean, otherwise you're just going to end up making movies about the cult leader, like sort of Hitler videos, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right. So that's what I saw on VHS under strict, don't tell people that you saw it sort of rules. And I went nuts for Robin Hood. I loved it. And I loved the music and I loved the toys and I dressed up as him and I was also, before Robin Hood came out, was a big fan of the Errol Flynn film. We loved that. That was one of the films we were allowed to watch as kids, was Robin Hood, the original, and we watched that to death. So when a new movie came out, we were just so excited.
Well, I can tell you exactly where I saw the movie, and actually I'm going to show you, because just by looking just now, I've even found a shot. So I saw it at the Warner West End, Leicester Square, which you'll remember when I took you around Leicester Square, I told you about the history of the various cinemas. And I said, Matt, this used to be a Warner 5-screen. It's now an 8-screen View cinema. Here is that same cinema with, look at that, Prince of Thieves.
Nice.
And mate, wouldn't it be funny? And you can see the Silence of the Lambs is on there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if I was in that photo? I'm just having a quick look. No, I don't think so.
Time to do a zoom
That's
in.
where I saw it. I saw it there, and I saw it on opening night. And their main screen there, I think back then, I think screen 2 was the big one. It wasn't screen 1. Screen 1 was above the big one. Screen 2 had these weird kind of circle things hanging down from the ceiling that I guess was considered funky artwork back then. But what was unique about it was the first cinema in the UK that had a THX sound system. And the first film that they ever showed with the THX sound system was Al Pacino's Revolution, which actually is, I think, is an unfairly maligned movie. And
I know that one.
You should watch it, because I think you'd find it interesting. It's kind of that Patriot sort of period of history, except not quite as Mel Gibson-ish as the Patriot. But one of the things I remember about when I watched that film and the cannons fired in the battle scene was they fired from the back of the theater. I heard the balls whistling over my head, and then the explosions came from the front, which was very cool. And then I saw The Mission not long after that at the same theater with Robert De Niro, which is a great film.
That's a good film.
Fantastic score as well. Ennio Morricone.
One of the best.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good screen. It was packed out. It was the opening night, absolutely rammed. And I remember that I went on my own. What that sucked, man. I can't remember why I went on my own. I don't know whether no one was free or what, but I remember I went on my own, and I remember thinking when I was watching the film, this is so much fun. There's no one with me like to share the experience. I hated that, man. But that's where I saw.
Was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I saw it at the Warner West End. Keith is here. Good buddy, Keith. Good to see you, mate. We're only just now. Keith's eyesight's not great, so mate, we're just talking about where we saw the film Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. We haven't got onto the other one yet. I saw it at the Warner West End, Leicester Square, when it first came out on opening night. Matt saw it probably from a Blockbuster or something.
Yeah, I rented it from a video store and saw it on a screen this big.
So let's talk about the cuts of the movie, because first of all, apart from the fact that there's an extended cut which happened a bit later, first of all,
much later.
In the UK, when the film was released on video, there were 3 very prominent cuts. One of the cuts was when the guy gets bashed in the nose with his Norman helmet on, and the nose piece goes like that, and it breaks his nose. And then later you see him, and he's the guy with the bandage on the nose. They cut the bit where he got his nose broken, so that gag was completely naff. They cut the bit where they went, fuck it, and they cut the thing and they go over the wall. They cut the language on
that's right. Oh, when he says fuck me, he cleared it.
Yeah, fuck me, he cleared it. And then there was another bit where there's a really funny joke in the film that Alan Rickman made funny, where he's trying to have his way with Marion as everyone's breaking into the castle, and they did that shot where he propelled his feet into the air, put them down like that, and spread Marion's legs apart, which the way it was done was actually quite comical. Whether people would find it funny or not today, that was cut on the British video release.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I remember that, but it always got a laugh. That moment.
Yeah, I thought it made I thought that cut made the rape scene more real, because that bit was like real. It was like a clown thing. It was like it was played for comedy. I mean, again, I don't know how it would go down now, but so I just I thought those were strange cuts to make, but you know why? Because this was the era of what films can we put out for $9.99 on the sell-through retail market. that you just not long had the big success of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Not every film was coming out straight to retail, but they were looking to do big business on the ones they thought they could sell. And the reason that they thought this would sell was because Bryan Adams had the big number one, anything I do it for you. So they put this out, and it was packed. And I was working at Virgin when this movie came out, or just thereafter, and we were still selling it. And it was in the top 10 charts for absolutely forever. The uncut version of it was not released in the UK, I think, until it might have been DVD. There might have been a widescreen letterbox format, like with Die Hard 2. That was the first time the uncut Die Hard 2 was released in UK. But I think the first time I saw the uncut version again, since I saw it at the cinema, was actually when I bought the DVD, which had the extended release on it.
Yeah, it's a I only saw whatever came out on VHS here in Australia, which had all those moments in it. I don't think it was the trimmed version; it was just the standard theatrical. And then much later, in subsequent DVDs and Blu-rays, got the what I guess is considered the extended cut, director's cut, that restores a lot of the witch and and all that sort of thing, and it actually makes it a bit of a different movie in lots of ways. But having watched the film, and it restores the barons and all that, and having watched that version a few times now, I actually now much prefer the longer director's cut version. Though at first I was a bit like, oh, this is a bit weird, but I much prefer that version now, the full version, than the theatrical. It's just got a bit more that makes sense. It just makes the story it broadens the world a bit. It takes away the witch from being. The witch had a sort of a supernatural quality to her in the first one, in the original, but in the new one, it actually shows her to be a fraud that spies on people, and that's how she knows stuff. And I thought that's smarter.
Yeah, no, I liked it. It's pretty interesting that on the first day of filming, the sudden changing weather caused jet traffic to be diverted from London's Heathrow, and so they had constant planes roaring over the location at Burnham Beaches, which I thought was quite funny. A second unit filmed the medieval walls and towers of Carcassonne, which is a town in Aude, France. I'm not sure I've been there, but Alan Tompkins, who we talked about on the stream before, funnily enough, you can see that he matched those towers on his production design to match the second unit. So do you remember the scene where Rickman's chasing him out the castle, and his cloak gets caught? Yeah, so that I think is one of the second unit shots. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna see if I can get that up. Why don't you talk about the cast? I'm gonna put the cast up, and I mean, obviously, Alan Rickman is just phenomenal. But let's get into everyone else while I find this. I'm gonna find this castle.
Well, I actually think the cast in Prince of Thieves is actually across the board brilliant. I really can't think of an actor that isn't good in it. I even like Kevin Costner, and I know people have criticized him for his accent, and they kind of gives
up. He kind of gives up halfway through, doesn't he, with his accent?
No, he just speaks American. He just speaks Costner the whole way through. He doesn't even attempt an accent. I think
there's
from what I heard, he was going to, but then they said, "No, you can't do it right. Just leave it."
There's definitely one scene where he's still giving it a go, and that's the one where Marion gets blindfolded and sort of sent across the lake in the mist with Duncan, the guide. And
he's speaking American in that scene.
No, he's got a line where he goes, "If you can get word to the king or something," and he's really trying. No, he's trying quite. You can, if you listen to it, it's quite different from the other scenes. He's trying quite hard to make his dialogue very flat and sound more British. The problem is that makes his acting really naff, because then he's he's not really being organic with his own.
No, he's
style.
focusing too much on accent. But
Yeah.
look, it's
So
nothing that took me out of the film, and I don't find that his accent takes me out personally.
no,
I mean, look,
I don't
it would
mind.
have been good if he was English. Yes, I agree, but
Sure.
it doesn't ruin the movie because I think the spirit of the character and is fine. And I actually think that his performance is a lot better than people give credit for. In fact, a lot of Costner's performances, I think, when going back, you realize why he was the big star that he was. And I actually think he's a more subtle actor than people give him credit for. And I think that's been he's been criticized for being wooden when I think he's actually being quite subtle. And this is in an era where Harrison Ford was the big guy. And if you look at a lot of Harrison Ford's early stuff, he's a big over actor, Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
You know, he's always pointing his finger and doing this. And it's it works because he's Harrison Ford, and you buy it because Harrison Ford is a great actor, but he's extremely big, and Costner is back here. He's very subtle, and so I actually think he's fantastic. And I'm going to say that as a Robin Hood, I'm 100% behind Kevin Costner. And so anyone who disagrees, that's fine. Did you know that
like him.
English actor Robin Wright, who coming off of The Princess Bride, she was actually going to be Maid Marian in this film. But I believe
Sean Penn's
future wife, she was supposed to be Maid Marian in this version. I think she was signed up to do it and everything. But I believe, if I remember correctly, she got pregnant, and so she declined because she's going to be having a baby. She declined the role and pulled out. And last minute, they cast Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. And I think that was providence, because I think Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio's Maid Marian is the best Maid Marian we've ever had. I think she's great.
I agree. And I'm not saying that just because your wife is almost a spitting image of Mary Mastrantonio.
But maybe that's where it came from.
Which might suggest some bias on Matt's part. But back then, I had a big thing for curly-haired brunettes. My first girlfriend was sort of in that camp, and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio was the queen of the big curly-haired brunette ladies. And she's a good actress too.
She's a very good actress, and she brought an excellent. What's so good about her, Maid Marian, is that she's a strong female character, definitely. Like, she gets into fights, she defends herself, she's very feisty, she stands up to villains and Robin Hood, but she's intelligent. So she's beautiful, feisty, intelligent, but she's also vulnerable, and she's also very feminine.
I like the way they set her up with her lady in waiting.
Yes,
this big sort of dumpy, plain woman, and Costner thinks that's actually Marion, and he goes, "The years have been kind." Really, insincerely, and you kind of know it's not her, but the way they did that, I thought was quite clever.
It was a good little bait and switch moment. But seriously, if you can pull off those 5 things in your female lead, and not relegate the role of Marion, which I guess in Robin Hood lore has always been the damsel in distress, but you can give her all those qualities. I mean, she was the damsel in distress in lots of ways in this film, like especially towards the end. But it doesn't feel. She doesn't feel like just.
She doesn't feel like a weak woman, though.
No, not at all. She is. She is. The way the story is and the script and the way she's fighting against the like she's resisting the rape of the sheriff.
Yeah.
She's strong, and we love that she gets rescued. I don't know. I love that she gets rescued, and she's a participant in the fight. She's screaming and yelling, but she gets the wax and she throws it against Alan Rickman, and I don't know. I think she's just the best Maid Marian.
She is really good. Before we cut to a picture, I just want to give a shout out to Jana Catania, who, by the way, complimented you on your impersonation of Harrison Ford. Perhaps we should have a bit more of that.
If you want to impersonate Harrison Ford, just point.
I think she's Copa Catania's wife, who's been on the show before, and they've just had a baby. So I just want to congratulate them. I think they've just had a little girl. You might get to briefly meet Matthew Holmes's baby Hugo if he pops in later. Maybe we'll get him on camera.
Yeah, I've shut the door so he can't come wandering in and bark during our session.
Oh, he's the cutest dog, guys. Got to tell you. All right. Well, look. Let's. I want to show you something. So, and I've not consciously seen this before. Matt, you and I have definitely got to go to this place sometime. So this is the castle where they shot the second unit. Now,
wow.
if you, I know, right? Now, look, if you look at the rampart here,
yeah,
I mean, it might be on the other side, but I think it was like probably round the outside of one of these. So you can see what very cleverly what Alan Tompkins, the art director, did. Late great friend of mine. He matched these towers.
He did.
And actually, if you look at the way he did it, and I hold up the picture, you can see that he's got the blue in the foreground and the red in the background, just like they are in the actual castle of the city.
Yeah, it's smart. Amazing. It's a smart, very smart production design move. And he, it's a beautiful, obviously that's the walls on the outside where, Robin Hood makes his escape. And but I think what's phenomenal, I mean, this is sort of going into production design here. Maybe we should keep to the cast, but let's go back to the cast and come back to this. Right? Because it's obviously everything has been said. Alan Rickman, everyone said everything there is to say about Alan Rickman that there is, and his performance is just so bloody good.
I was so gutted, man, that I never got to work with him. And of course, the first thing I ever saw him in was Die Hard,
and of course, well, he really had a bit of a 1-2 hit with this and Die Hard. I mean, talk about an introduction to Hollywood when you played one of the best villains ever in Die Hard, and then you play the best sheriff of Nottingham ever.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a 1-2 punch that just launched him into the
And he said he got offered absolutely every villain in every movie going thereafter. Yeah, everybody wanted him. And he said the great thing about it was once he'd done those 2 films, he'd bought his house, he'd paid off his whatevers, and then he could go back and he could choose what films he wanted to do, and he could also do his first love, which was theatre. Jim D has just mentioned a favourite of mine. I'm not sure Matt's so keen on this movie. I love Quigley Down Under personally.
I've never seen Quigley Down Under.
I can't believe it's an Australian set movie with Alan Rickman in. How could you not have seen Quigley Down Under?
It never interests me.
It's got a great score as well. The main theme is just, it's hair raising. The tune is lovely.
Nah, I never saw it. It was a movie I did not see in its time, and so therefore it's been one of those films that I really should see quickly, but I just never had the interest.
Maybe we never had the interest. Might have to do a Quigley live stream. All right, so let's go back to the cast because there's a couple of interesting people, including some people that I've met in some of the smaller roles. So we've got Geraldine McEwen as Mortania, who's a classic British actress. I think she's passed away.
I always used to confuse her for Maggie. I used to always confuse her for Maggie Smith.
They are of similar ilk for sure.
Yeah, but I thought she was really good. I thought The Witch was excellent. Like she was just really convincing as it's
She's great in everything she's in, by the way. It's worth checking down. Anything that you fancy on her IMDb list, she's worth checking out.
Yeah, she is good. I think one of the great things about the cast, which Robin Hood does, whether it was deliberate or just providence, is Robin Hood is the straight man and Kevin Costner doing his Kevin Costner much more subtle acting. And his opposite is Rickman, who is just chewing the scenery. It's having such a difference. They become such polar opposites. One's so over the top, one's so subdued. And I actually think it really they complement each other because of it.
I get the impression that Rickman probably improvised some of his dialogue, like the "you in my room at 9:15, you 9:45 and bring a friend." It just feels like he might have just thrown that into a take and they went, "That's good, let's use it."
Yeah. But the way he plays it is so over the top and so funny, yet somehow menacing. If he one more step to the right or the left, it becomes parody. It becomes Monty Python.
Yeah, he somehow kind of
But he
managed to make
walked
it work.
He walked this fine line and kept it right on the side of menacing but humorous. And he was both scary and funny. And oh man, it just shows you how brilliant he was, that he could walk such a fine line and pull it off.
Yeah, that scene, cousin, now.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, he stabs him. I actually didn't see that coming.
No.
Um,
That's the beauty, the excellence of this film, that it sets things up and then twists them around, and you don't expect it. And oh yeah, then of course at least I didn't use a spoon.
Yeah. Why a spoon, cousin? I loved all that. This little subplot between Michael Shane and Morgan Freeman's kind of nice. The clashing of the religious values, a little bit of racism on the part of the priest.
They chopped a lot of it out of the theatrical and restored a lot for the extended.
That's right.
They make a bigger deal of him being a Muslim in the extended one, but in the theatrical, they kind of whittle it down a little. But I'm glad to see it got restored in the extended.
Yeah, Freeman and Costner have really good chemistry. You know, her name and all that, Jasmina. And
I think
Shane as a fat drunk is not too much of a stretch of an imagination, is it really?
I think Morgan Freeman's addition, because he was, I guess, in the Robin Hood canon of characters that we're so used to, the Will Scarletts and the Maid Marians, he was an addition.
I liked him being in it. I liked the whole setup at the beginning with
the Holy War.
They're all captured in the Crusades, and it's
and I think what's so smart about bringing on the character of Asim into it, it's not that it just makes the whole thing feel a little bit more like there's more of the world coming around in this. It's just not just England. It gave Robin Hood someone to introduce to the world of England, and so as Azim discovers what England's like, we can discover it too. You get to it. It was smart, and of course Morgan Freeman. I mean, the guy's so bloody good that everything.
Redeem, time to redeem that vow. That's like a running gag, like all the way through the movie. And
that's right.
And he kind of like does it right at the end. I have redeemed that vow, Christian, and he's like, but that's pretty good.
They were good foils for each other. It was it was like a buddy comedy. They didn't really want to be with each other, but they sort of really come to love and respect each other, which is just such a smart. It's a very smart script, much smarter than people give it credit for.
I've got to agree with you on that 100%. It is a really smart script.
I watched it again. I got this from like at the beginning of the year. This turned up in the mail, and I just wanted to see what the transfer was like, because it was a new 4K transfer. And I just whacked it on and put on the first few minutes just to see that the transfer was good. I ended up sitting and watching the whole damn thing again, because I love it. I just had to watch the whole thing again.
I liked the actor who played Duncan.
He was excellent.
He
showed the brutality of the world.
Yeah. So he was good.
I actually think Christian Slater was really good too. Like watching it again,
because he's got quite a serious storyline, and there's that whole thing. Where does this hatred of me come from? And that scene with because you're my brother, that scene could have really fallen flat. Yeah. And then, Costner's like, you're my brother, and he's over the moon.
Yeah.
And because this is directed by Kevin Reynolds, who worked with Costner again on Waterworld. And Reynolds, I believe, was locked out of the edit suite on this movie and wasn't very happy about it, and said he'd never work with Costner again.
And he did, and then the same thing happened again.
This is the scene where he half attempts an accent, and I suspect it was probably filmed first.
And then they said, don't do that anymore, Kev. Just leave it alone. Leave it alone.
Now, this is Daniel. This is Daniel Peacock, who plays. I can't remember if it's Much or one of those there's the two of them.
He's like the Much character, isn't he? Yeah.
Well, there's two of them. The other actor, they're always a double act. They're always in the film together. So Daniel Peacock is one of the team of the Comic Strip Presents, which is a Channel 4 comedy ensemble that launched the careers of a huge number of actors who went on to do their own things. But the Comic Strip also made several movies, one-off television films. Daniel Peacock is now a successful writer, director. I met him in the queue for Labyrinth, David Bowie, with my then girlfriend, and he was there with his kids, and I got to chat to him. Of course, this hadn't come out then. This hadn't been made then. Really, really nice guy, and I was quite pleased to see him in this.
He was excellent in this. He was very funny.
So the guy who is with him in the film, in his scenes with him,
his other little buddy.
Yeah, I think the guy who plays his little buddy, I might be wrong, but I think it might be the guy who played the Artful Dodger in Oliver Twist.
Yeah, he does look like him, doesn't he? I think he is.
So this lad who plays Little John's son, who I thought was a very good actor. Now, you haven't seen much of him in his career, and I got told after he did this film, he became an absolute insufferable arsehole. And on the things he worked on after that, everybody, crew, cast, everybody couldn't stand him, and they didn't want to work with him. So that's what I heard.
You can't act like a movie star until you are one.
Until
you are a bona fide movie star, and they can't not have you. You can't act like that. You'll destroy your career too early.
I thought this set was really cool. It was like watching the people build the treehouse that I always wanted my dad to build for me.
Yep. That was And I think the guy who plays Guy of Gisborne, that actor,
Michael Winnicott.
Yeah, he was great in this.
Yeah.
I mean, he was one of the best villains of the 90s too. Like he was in 1492 as Moxica.
Moxica, yeah.
Moxica, that's it. He was I don't know, every time he turned up, I was always like, yes, I love this guy. Because he was also in the next year. He was in the Three Musketeers as one of the.
That's right.
The evil, as the Cardinal's sort of henchman.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think an infallible cast. This movie.
I really loved this costume.
Yes,
it's my favorite.
It's so iconic.
Yeah, well, it was in the people who designed it. There was a costume storage house in Covent Garden. I think it's moved now, called Angels. And it was in the window of Angels for absolutely ages. And they just used to showcase it. And it looked so beautiful. And eventually it was auctioned off. That's kind of one of the shots where you really get to see it in its full glory, complete with double scarf combination. I had a kind of cool jacket that looked a bit like that. And I covered it in loads of studs. To give it this give
it the Robin Hood look.
I sort of crossed between Robin Hood / replicant Rutger Hauer Braveheart type situation. Not quite sure where I was going with that. Now, this shot is on the back lot at Shepperton on the
Great
set. Yeah, the set Anne Tompkins constructed. Maybe there'll be a nice shot of it somewhere. Brian Blessed has a nice cameo from Flash Gordon.
Yeah, he was great, very memorable. I think the thing that separates Robin Hood from the other one we'll talk about afterwards is how distinct every character is.
You remember them all.
You remember every one of them, and every one of them, from the costume to the performance to the dialogue and to the way they're woven into the plot. They are so distinct and memorable. You can never confuse one character with another, and I think. In a world everyone's in grey costumes and armor and all that stuff, very hard to distinguish people, but everyone's distinct. And you can tell everyone what that character was like. And I think that's one of the things that makes a really good film. And we saw this test. Do you remember when the boys that do those Star Wars breakdowns? What are they called? Those
Red Letter Media guys.
When the Red Letter Media boys tried to do the test, compare the characters from the prequels to the original Star Wars, describe the characters without their name,
without saying who they are or what they do or something.
Just describe their personality, and they couldn't do it with the prequel characters, but they could with the original. Well, that's what I think Robin Hood did so well, is that you can strip away their costume, their role, everything, and you can still tell us what their personality was like.
No,
so that's the hallmark of great writing, great performance. And I think what was so good about this film, which is that it subverted, I think it subverted audience expectation in the right way, because the only real Robin Hood we already knew at this time that that everyone was familiar with was Errol Flynn, and we knew all the characters of the Errol Flynn of the canon, and so we thought, that's what we're going to go get. But what they did is they flipped everything on its head. Robin Hood wasn't perfect. Will Scarlet hated Robin Hood, which was not the way that was.
That was very different.
Maid Marian was in a totally different context. She was very much of the people, whereas originally she was royalty who didn't know anything about the common person until Robin Hood showed her. There was the sheriff in Nottingham was usually a bumbling idiot, but in this one, he's dangerous and deadly.
Yeah.
Little John was a bit more sort of happy and sort of, but he was a bit more antagonistic in this one, at least to begin with. Yeah. So they flipped everything around.
Leroy commented on what Little John's son was a brat. I don't believe it. Yeah, afraid so, man. I heard that from two different people, both of whose opinions I trust. That doesn't mean he's like that now. Long time ago. This lad would be coming up to 50 now, I would think. But actually, you know what? If we go on to...
he'd be in his late 40s now.
Yeah, just go through some of the other shots. I mean, this battle sequence for the village was absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, it's a fantastic... But what a way to introduce your hero. Like Robin Hood, how did they introduce him in the original 1940s one? Aha, I'm Robin Hood. Hi, he's so...
Yeah, I mean, that film's just kind of redundant now, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's what we knew of Robin Hood. Like, if you look at this film in the context of the 90s, that was how everyone knew Robin Hood. And now you introduce him as a prisoner in Jerusalem with hair and a beard like this, about to get his hand cut off, and he has to leave soldiers behind to make an escape. I mean, it just goes, whatever you knew about Robin Hood, forget about it. We are going to give you a whole new concept of Robin Hood. And remember, this is before Braveheart.
Yeah.
We have not seen medieval times depicted so violent, so dirty, so gritty. We'd never seen it before.
Well, this shot here, which is second unit again, Cassione, this shot is captioned in the film and it says the Castle of Nottingham. Now, I used to live in Nottingham, and even Nottingham in its heyday before the castle was captured and recaptured and destroyed and partially blown up in the English Civil War and blah, 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 blah. It never looked remotely anything like this. So when my friend Sean, who lived up there at the time, he was telling me when this shot came on and it said the Castle of Nottingham, everybody in the Nottingham cinema just pissed themselves laughing. They're like, "You're joking, aren't you? Looks nothing like this." But that's a great.
Well, that's part of the disadvantage of you being in the world. People who know, because in Australia we were like, "Oh, that looks like Nottingham to us."
This character's good. This is another well-known British character actor who I think he was in that sci-fi show called The Knights of God, and he's done a few other things, and he kind of plays the corrupt priest.
Yeah, it was great.
That's the surprise wedding at the end when Sean Connery turns up.
Yeah,
and there's
to get his $1 million paycheck.
Well, there's a big story behind that, in the sense that the press, who all came to the press, there he is, who came to the press screening, were all asked if they would personally please not mention it because they wanted to keep it a surprise.
Yeah.
And so actually they did do that in England. No one talked about it, which is quite rare for the British press to keep their gob shut about anything. And when I went to see the film, it was a complete surprise. I'm not sure where this location is, the farm at the beginning with where Marion. That's something else I want to talk about is the camera work in this film, because until I'd seen this movie, I'd never seen this shot where the camera followed the arrow and it went straight into somebody.
It was arrow cam, wasn't it?
It was like an arrow cam, and then they did that. I seem to recall there were two groundbreaking shots in it. One was an arrow cam, and there was another one. I can't remember the second one now. You saw it recently, so you
okay. So you had arrow cam. You had things like cannonballs, like being fired straight into the lens.
That was it. It was the fiery ball straight into the lens,
straight into the lens.
Catapults.
Yeah, but it had but just the way that one of the things that this film does beautifully is the way the camera moves through the scenes. It's such a fluid movie, and it makes it feel very earthy. And how inventive the shots are. It's beautifully directed by Reynolds. He just knocked it out of the park. I just find it's such an energetic film. Like, performances, dialogue, editing, camera work. There's so much energy in the movie. I just find it so bizarre when people go, "Oh, that Robin Hood film was terrible."
I don't know anybody over here that thinks that.
I hear it. I hear it a lot. I hear it a lot. Oh, that Robin Hood film is terrible. And you go, what are you talking about? It's not perfect. It's got some things that maybe could have been better. Sometimes it's a little dated here and there. But that's like pointing at a beautiful cathedral and going, "Oh, look at that bit's not right." And you're like, "Yeah, I know, but look at the whole thing. It's wonderful."
Yeah, I thought the film was a ton of fun, and I mean,
and that's what it's supposed to be.
It gave me exactly what I wanted from a Robin Hood film.
That's what it does well. It goes, all right, you want a Robin Hood film? We're not going to give you historical perfection. It's not historically perfect, like you said. Nottingham Castle. That's not what Nottingham Castle looks like. But it's not going to give. So it's not going to give. It's not going to give you the Errol Flynn ridiculousness either. It's going to give you popcorn movie. Here we go.
I mean, the geography of the locations is quite funny because this is on the south coast of England. These are known as the Seven Sisters, these cliffs.
Yep.
And I can take you there when you come this July. So they land there, and then the next scene...
2 days later, like a day's walk, and they're there somewhere else?
No, yeah. Then the next scene is they're on their way to Nottingham, and that scene is shot where you've got the kid being chased by the dogs and the kid goes up the tree and all that. That scene is part of Hadrian's Wall on the border of Scotland.
Oh my God.
That's right up the other end of the country from this location. Then Burnham Beeches is where they shot Nottingham Forest, which is the other side of Reading, which is the other side of London. That second unit again, that's in France. They didn't go to Africa to film anything. Now that's the famous chase sequence. Or no, that might be the one where they just stop and alleviate the princess of her gifts. But there's that chase sequence which was cut from the original. I always felt that there was something missing from that scene. There you go. Look, Nottingham Castle.
Yeah.
But let me just see if we can, before we move on from cast and kind of maybe wrap up a bit, I want to see here. Right, look, Daniel Newman, who played Wolf, right? That's the annoying kid. Okay, so
he was good in this film, but he just turned into a bit of a
he's got turkey. 42. He's got 42 credits. Okay, which I mean is okay, but like don't forget he's been acting since the 90s. So if Prince of Thieves was his second credit, and if you look between 1990 and 2000, okay, he worked a bit. I know somebody who worked with him on The Bill. That's where they worked with him, and I don't know if he's still acting now. Last credit's 2009, so I'm guessing probably not.
Yeah, I guess he's giving it up.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know what? He was young when he got in Prince of Thieves. He probably did go to his head for a little bit. It's a bit of a tragic story here. Look, 1997, he lost his 25-year-old brother Mark in a car accident. Oh, now I feel bad. He's got a daughter, so he's a father now. It's funny, isn't it? Because you see him in your head, and he's just always that kid, isn't he?
Yeah, they grow up They grow
You know,
up.
at the end of the day, that can happen. You're young. He's only a teenager. Does a big movie. So the next couple of sets he goes on, he acts all big Billy Big Bollocks, as we call it in the industry. And
happens a lot. Happened to the kid in. I think it happened to the
chilled out.
Goodfellas kid, the Bronx Tale kid. A lot of them. They
what? Yeah. What? I wonder why we never saw him again.
Yeah, they get famous. It makes it actually. They have troubled lives afterwards because their fame also brings them a lot of difficulty in school.
There you go.
Things like that.
Well,
Jack Wilde. This is you.
It was him.
It is the Artful Dodger. Yeah.
Now, I have a story about him. So he was in a play of a friend of mine.
Just for context, everyone, this guy Jack Wilde, he plays the other little Forrest, one of Robin Hood's merry men.
He plays Much. He plays Much.
That's right. Yeah.
And the other guy plays like Much's best mate. They're in all their scenes together. I don't think there's a still of him in Robin Hood on these.
Yeah.
This is mainly all from like HR Puff and stuff. But of course, there he is as the Artful Dodger. Now, that's the first film I ever saw at the cinema. It was on re-release. I wasn't alive in '68, just for those people watching. I'm not that much of an old fucker. And I think it was re-released about 77 or 76, not long before Star Wars came out. And I loved Jack Wilde. So a friend of mine cast him in a play. That play only ran for a few days. And the night that I went up to see it, it actually got pulled. Oh. And I think, the whole thing fell apart. I felt so bad for my friend. And I was sort of trying to help out backstage, kind of do a bit of morale saving because all the cast were in tears. And I was going up the staircase, and coming down the staircase was Jack Wilde carrying his costume. This is before, because in later life, he had to put one of those things to his throat to talk because he'd smoked so much, his voice cords are all gone. Oh, Holly Kenyon is a friend of mine. She's got if it's the right person, if it's the same Holly Kenyon I'm thinking of, her son is an actor. And they've used my actor's accommodation in Outcast Actors Crash Pad.
Just looking at some of their comments. We got some people saying, "Did you mean the Three Musketeers with Kiefer, Charlie, and Rebecca De Mornay?" Yes, Jim D. Love that film.
I like that film.
Yeah, so and that came out the year after, and I actually got to see that in the cinema.
Yeah, they tried to completely replicate the success of Prince of Thieves. They even had Bryan Adams do a song for it.
They had Bryan Adams do the song, they had Carmen do the music, and they had Michael Winnicott come and do the villain. And I still love that Three Musketeers film. I still think it's great fun.
It's one of the better ones. I want to go back and watch. That's another one we could do, Matt. We could do a Musketeers comparison. I don't want to compare that new modern one with all the crap CGI in it. That was dreadful. But
I haven't seen. You don't.
I
haven't seen many of those.
No, but I'd like to go the 80s and late 70s ones. What about the Silkines one? Maybe.
I never saw it.
But that could be an interesting one to do another one of these, couldn't it?
I never saw the Silkines one, so I don't have any reference for that. I only saw the very, very, very early one from the 40s, and then I saw the 90s one.
Well, here's Nick Brimble, who there he is in Frankenstein Unbound, who played Little John. He is still alive and still going.
Yeah, I often see him pop up. He was an excellent Little John.
He was. He was great.
And again, subverted our expectations to a degree and I think because he was more antagonistic than they were in the other one.
I like this actress as well, Sue Druitt. She was great in it.
Who is she?
She was the one who played Little John's 11th wife.
Yeah. She was good.
She comes in. She's called Fanny, isn't she? And she comes
Fanny,
to be at the battle.
That's right. She joins the fight.
And Little John's like, why aren't you with the other 5 kids? You should be bloody well minding the other 7 kids or something.
Yeah, and she's like, no, I'm going to fight too. And Robin Hood's like, right, your job's here,
Yeah. When they're doing their little kind of, they've got their little model of the castle on the ground. That bit was pretty funny. Harold Innocent is the bishop guy. I think he's deceased now. Yes, he died in 93.
But before we wrap up Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, I must say the score for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
The score. I mean, one of the best opening. It's Michael Kamen, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Who sadly died quite young. He also did the score for Die Hard.
Yep.
Which is an underrated
and
score,
the Lethal Weapon movies.
Right, yeah. They've got the first Lethal Weapon film.
I think Michael Kamen did all 3 Lethal Weapon, the official 3 proper Die Hard films. He did all the Lethal Weapon films, but he with Eric Clapton, I think, was it?
Yeah, Eric Clapton did those guitar riffs.
He often collaborated with rock stars of the time. Kamen did. Obviously, that's how you got Bryan Adams and Sting, and in lots of other films he did. I think this is Michael Kamen's best score that he ever did. And
is it Kamen or Kamen? I've always pronounced it Kamen.
I've always thought Kamen, but that doesn't mean I got it right.
Great music by Hans Zimmer. I think Ollie's talking about King Arthur there.
I will say, yes, that the music for King Arthur by Hans Zimmer is probably the best thing about it. That is an excellent score by Zimmer.
Here we go.
That was back.
Jim D. Michael Kamen's opening theme is just so fantastic. Really strong beginning to a terrific adventure film. And it's the Tapestry of Bayeux, isn't it? That's the opening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's so good about it is that I remember this even as a kid, like a young teenager. The minute that music started, for the first time I watched it, it grabbed me, and I was like, "Oh my god, this music's got me." It just from the and then I remember my dad sitting in the couch, and he's watching it, and he goes, good music." You know, it just instantly gets you, and that's what's so good about. This is what's lacking in modern movies is this love of theme and melody and the big opening, ba-ba, here we go. And I think that's what's so good about Robin Hood. It just goes, it announces itself. It goes, forget what you know about Robin Hood. Here's a whole new take. This is the tone. This is the movie. Now you're going to have the best 2 hours you've ever had this week.
Yeah, I mean, it is I really would. That was one of the shots that I'd never seen a shot.
Yeah, in full slow motion, shot at 120 frames, you know.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that was. We're moving on to some random fucking trailer now. That was. So, what would you give? And I'm interested from the people watching as well. There's 8 of you in. By the way, guys, thanks for joining us. Leroy Peters, you're relatively new to the channel, man. You're very welcome, and lots of very relevant and interesting comments. Jim D, one of our regulars, of course. Musker Hounds, I remember that, man. All for one and one for all. Bump, 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 bump. Anyway, won't go there. But what would you give it out of 10 on IMDb?
I would give Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves a 9.5.
You know, I've rated it 8 on IMDb, but now I'm thinking about it. I think I'm going to re-rate it a 9.
Yeah, I think it is the Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves is unapologetically the epitome of the perfect Hollywood action movie.
It's the perfect Hollywood Robin Hood done right.
That's right.
For sure.
Absolutely. It is it is like, it's not taking itself too seriously, but it takes itself seriously enough. It has romance, comedy, action, great characters, great everything, great music, great locations, great. I can't fault it.
10 out of 10 from Leroy.
From Leroy Peters. We're not going to argue with that. Holly, thank you. 9.5. Holly agrees with
Gary Bolter from Outcast Australia is in the house.
He's in the house. And Gary gives it an 8. Come on, Gary, go higher. Go higher.
Hang on now, Gary. I've got something to show you here, mate. While you're here, let me see if I can get it up quickly, a little bit off-piste. But, you know, hey, it's the Outcast channel and we can do what we want. So Gary, we got the so for those people that don't know, we've got a play opening in London fairly soon, and Gary is technically in the play, even though he's not based in London. He's based in Australia. He is actually in the play, and the way we got him in the play was he's doing a there's a scene where there's a voiceover, and I've just got the proof of the brochure through today. So and we've we've got the kind of the layout for it and everything. And yeah, Gary, your headshot made it into the program. We just about had enough room for you. So I'll see if I can show you that real quick. And then we'll move on to the next Robin Hood installment, which probably won't take as long. I feel like it won't take.
It won't take us long, but I've got a lot to say.
Okay, cool. Oh, you've probably got more to say about it than I have. Oh, hang on. Let me get that. Okay, I need to do that. So, job proofs. Cool. I think this is it. So, yeah. So this is a proof of the brochure, and there you are, Gary. You can see your headshot there.
There he is,
right above Ross Carpenter, the assistant stage manager. And yeah, so. And Gary's voice is booming across theatres in London in the not too distant future. Gary Bolter, huzzah! Very happy. Look at that. I like that young photo of you, Gary. And I appreciate that you've put your Robin of Locksley headshot for this stream, especially with your little profile picture there. Okay, so let's take that down. Let's get on to, it came out. Now, I want to say it came out afterwards.
No, it didn't. It came out a month before Prince of Thieves.
I feel like it came out afterwards in the UK.
Well, it's had a bit of the release of this film was a real mixed bag. They were shooting concurrently.
Yeah, no, I remember that. And then suddenly I think one production realized the other production had Alan Rickman in it.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of financial trouble behind this film, so we've got to be kind to it in a certain way, because they had a lot of financial trouble. And I think John McTiernan was actually going to direct this Robin Hood, as far as from what I understand.
Yeah, he was, off the back of the success of Die Hard.
Yeah.
And he ended up being an executive producer on it because of all the work he did. But it was directed by John Irvin, who I've actually met, who did Hamburger Hill. Is still alive. He's probably about 82 now.
Yeah.
And he is an action director. He's handled a lot of action.
It was a very low budget film. It's like $15 million compared to like $50 million of the Prince of Thieves.
Yeah, 15. Yeah, the budget was 15.
It's not a fair in one sense. This isn't a fair comparison, but that's not what we're really going to be talking about.
But I mean, at the end of the day, a Robin Hood film for 15 mil could still be a great Robin Hood film.
And looking at what's on screen, I think they clearly had the money to do something good.
So the question is, well, in my opinion, why wasn't it good? I mean, look, I haven't rewatched this recently. The last time I saw it was forever ago. I'm going to let you talk about it quickly while I dash to the loo. But one of my closest friends, Danny Webb, is in this.
He plays Much the Miller's son.
He does
quite good. He's good as Much the Miller's son. He just doesn't get enough screen time.
I'd met him by this stage, so when I saw him in it, I was quite chuffed. Let me dash to the loo quickly, Matt. Why don't you just talk about the film and how you came to see it, and I'll be right back.
Yep, no worries, can do. So how I came? Well, first of all, I just want to talk to some of our people that have been commenting. We've got 8 people with us. We've got Leroy, Jim D, all making some very interesting comments. Yeah, look, Leroy Peters, Robin Hood with Russell Crowe. Yes, I like that film as well. I just really wish that they had made the planned second film that was meant to be the companion to that one to finish the story. And they, of course, because it didn't make enough money, they abandoned it. And I think that's a dreadful shame, because I think that Robin Hood film with Russell Crowe is a great setup for the next adventure, but we never got the next adventure. So I don't think it was.
Oh my God! Do you know what? I completely forgot about the Russell Crowe Robin Hood, and I've even got the Blu-ray of that.
Yeah, and I think it's a very solid film. Not perfect.
What with the D-Day landing barges? Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know.
It's not perfect, but it had some good stuff in it, and
Yeah,
I think
it had some good bits. I don't remember this car chase.
but it didn't stick the landing for the. Well, anyway, what are you doing back? Are you back from the toilet already?
Yeah, dude, I'm the fastest pee in the West, as I
Wow,
keep telling Leroy
wow.
Peters.
I was going to say I feel like you only just left the room.
Dude, I'm like that's a perfected skill from like going to see Batman and drinking a Red Bull. I had to do 5 wee-wees in that Batman Dark Knight Returns, and I was back and forth from the toilet like a yo-yo. Every time I came back in, it felt like the film hadn't moved on any further.
That is fast. But here we are. So Robin Hood, the 91. So yeah, happening at the same time. The release, it was meant to be theatrical. Then they changed their minds. They decided to release it on the Fox network as a TV movie. And then and then what happened is after that, I think then they did some theatrical releases afterwards.
Well, I remember when I went to see this, thinking it was going to be good. I thought it was going to be like a grittier version.
Yes.
I definitely had seen Prince of Thieves. By the time I came to see this, I had definitely seen Prince of Thieves, because I don't have many memories of the film other than going, well, shit, that wasn't as good as Prince of Thieves. I get that it was going for a very different vibe. There's Owen Teale, who's a great actor who many people will know was in Game of Thrones.
This guy here, yeah, wasn't he in the Bounty as well? I think he was one of the
I think
crew members on the Bounty.
He was one of the crewmen, I think.
Yeah.
I really love Jürgen Prochnow, and I actually thought he was pretty good in this film.
He's one of the strongest. He's a little bit hammy in it, like he's a bit over the top.
Sorry, Leroy.
But he is, but he's one of the stronger actors in this. As he's a good villain.
I mean, Leroy's got a good point here. He says he's not a big fan of Bergen's work. I hated his character in Sleeping with the Enemy. Now, the funny thing was,
we're supposed to hate his character in Sleeping with the Enemy.
I thought his performance in Sleeping with the Enemy was the film that proved he could act. I thought he was good in that. Yeah, you are supposed to hate him. He's horrible.
I remember being shockingly affected by that film when I saw that, because he was scary.
That's the one where Julia Roberts pretends that she's drowned and then moves to a different town, and he kind of
because he's a complete psychopath of a husband. He's a total narcissistic psychopath. I think he played that villain very well.
Yeah,
I mean, you're supposed to hate the guy. He was the worst horrible husband in the world.
So, Jim Dees mentioned the TV Robin Hood with Michael Praed. Loved it, mate. I saw it when it first came out. Tyne's logo. Have you not seen that, Matt?
No.
Oh, dude, we're gonna have to find a clip. I've got to show you a clip of that.
Is this a
modern the Hooded Man? Never seen that, dude.
No.
I mean, do you know what? It's of its time, but it's not.
But what is its time? I didn't even know what era you're talking about.
It was on TV. I'm gonna say 86.
Oh God, no, man. Anything that came out in that period, I grew up without a television. I never saw anything.
Hang on. So even though again we're segueing a little bit, I've got to show you. So it was called Robin of Sherwood. It ran for 2 seasons, and Michael Praed, the lead actor, he sort of, mate, you can see the whole first full episode on YouTube. It's there. I'll show you the title sequence, okay?
It doesn't sound very interesting.
Well, let me show you. Okay, yeah.
It sounds like something of its time.
I mean, it was of its time, but I've watched it in the not too distant past, and it's not terrible, man. Hang on, let me stop this. I'll show you. This is going to be fun. So, this is the Robin of Sherwood trailer. I don't know if I can get away with playing the sound on this for more than a couple of.
I know this music. This is Clannad, isn't it? They did
Clannad, yeah. So I better mute it. Nice stitching there on the hood. But it was very kind of look at me with my bouffant hair. And now this had Ray Winston in it as Will Scarlet, but it had some pretty good fight scenes, I thought. Guy of Gisborne was a good actor. This is Guy of Gisborne actor. That's Marion. She was very attractive. And again, this is all pre Prince of Thieves, and this is like Hearn, the god of the woods. So it kind of went for a bit of a spiritual vibe, like he was inspired to be good by this. And that by the way, those are the same falls I think that they used for Prince of Thieves. I think it's nearby, or
it doesn't look like exactly the same, but it looks
but I think it's the same. Look how young Ray Winston is.
Right.
That they did a huge amount of archery work in this. People were getting killed by arrows left, right, and center. I mean, people got killed in this show a lot. And then Jason Connery took over as Praed because Praed got a case of the Billy Big Bollocks and thought he was it, and then went on to have a very mediocre career after. That was the high point of his. So that's Robin of Sherwood, guys. Here you go. Look, Leroy. My dad and I used to watch that every Saturday. Me too, mate. I thought there was one that they did that was really cool with Rula Lenska in it, where you had the guys in red with the dragon riders, and the way that they shot that, and they rode down into the village, and they had those cool helmets. I think that was really cool. They looked really good, and here we go. I remember them, and I got to show you this, Matt. I want to know what you think of this. Again, you may just say it's of its time. I don't know, but I think this shot. Look how Lord of the Rings this is. Look at that. Does that remind you of the
it's
Dark
very
Riders or what?
It's very ring wraithy, yeah.
Yeah. So this was like, and this was I think this was the last two episodes, like a two-parter of the first season. But I really loved these shots. I think these were great, and I think they look really cool. I like those helmets, and
you could tell that they're certainly going for something quite artistic.
It was I thought it was a good show. It had a lot of merit,
to be honest, though, I grew up without a television, so I don't know. But I don't know if we even got this in Australia.
Do you know what I would say? If you're going to watch any episodes of it, watch these two, because they really went they went all out, and it's got some great action scenes in this one. And that's the two-parter where at the end, maybe he gets killed, maybe he doesn't. I'm not going to tell you what the outcome of that is, but yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good show.
Nobody in my school, none of my friends, nobody talked about this Robin Hood. I didn't even know it existed until you brought it up just now, which means that I don't think it came out in Australia, so we never saw it.
It may well not have done. Well, just for you, we'll go back to the Patrick Bergen one.
Yeah.
America had it on my man Leroy Peters. I'm liking this Leroy guy, man. You've got to come back. Michael Praed, here you go. Look, made such a splash with the role. He was immediately snapped up by American television and plonked in the cast ratings juggernaut of Dynasty. That's right, or Dynasty. And he went over there and had a bit of a career there, but it didn't quite burgeon the way.
No, I'd never heard of Michael Praed. So
yeah.
It certainly didn't. He didn't make any splash here.
Uma Thurman was the princess.
Yeah. So we'll cast. Let's sort of start with. Okay.
Let's do cast. You
got English actor Patrick Bergen playing Robin Hood, Uma Thurman and Jurgen Prochnow, and you've got that French actor playing
Jerome Craig, who had not long done No Mercy with Richard Gere, which is a very good 80s thriller.
And he also was the villain. He was also the villain in The Fugitive a couple of years later.
Harrison Ford. That was not that long after this, actually.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was only a couple of years after. Yeah. And I think that's probably all of the big names you're going to spot in this.
No.
It had Fox. Edward Fox
as Prince John, and I'm going to cite another big name.
He's in it for like one or two scenes.
Yeah, he just does a couple of scenes.
It's
I
like
don't know
a
if we,
cameo, really.
we might see. Maybe we can get a no page. Try again later. Okay, then. All right. Maybe we'll. I guess we ran out of photos there. We might get.
There he is, up in the top corner, up in the top left, top
Yeah,
right hand.
yeah.
So you had
Oh,
Edward
it's not.
Fox.
It's. I'm getting some. Hey, I might get cut off soon. We seem to be getting some internet
No,
issues here.
I think it looks like IMDb servers are down.
Oh, are they? Well,
It looks like it.
if I share my other Wikipedia page, I'll tell you who else was in it. David Morrissey, who
Yeah.
of course went on to fame as the governor in Walking Dead, and has since.
And wasn't he? And he was Little John, as I remember.
Yeah, he was Little John. Now, he was also in One Summer, which was directed by Gordon Fleming, who's Jason Fleming's dad. That was the first thing I saw David Morrissey in. He went on to become a director. The first thing he directed was a short film that he premiered at the Jackson's Lane Theatre when they had a film festival there. And I was working there at the time, and he was unhappy with the projection of the film. And I went and helped him sort it out in the projection room.
Oh, right. There you go.
I recognized him from One Summer, and I was telling him about how much I loved that show. And I think you'll see, look, in 1982, Morrissey auditioned for One Summer. There it is, about two kids running away to Wales, get away from gangs in Liverpool. And a very young James Hazeldine is in it as well, who also came to see my first play. It's amazing, all these connections. It's crazy. But
well, I guess being a British, being in the British, sort of on the fringes of the British industry, you're going to bump into all these people because obviously they shot in
the fringes. Thanks, man. You're not wrong though, but thank you.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I feel like I'm on the fringes of it. That's for sure.
I'm on the fringes of the Australian film industry. Mate, and that's even worse.
I like to think that we're in the real heart of the industry, the struggling independent world, and that is where the heart of the industry lies. It's definitely not going to let me show that picture. That's annoying.
Well, it's where we start. But well, look, I'd like to say a few things about this particular Robin Hood. I saw it on VHS. I saw a VHS about a month or two after. I've seen Kevin Costner Robin Hood. I want more. Let's go get that other one. And our video store had one copy of it, not 15 like Robin Hood. And so we got it. And I remember watching it, and I think I didn't know if I finished it or I walked out and I came back. So I had my first viewing of it is very cloudy, and I don't remember a lot. But I do remember liking the look of the movie.
Yeah, it looked very bleak, as I remember.
It was very bleak looking, but it was still beautiful. There's still a beauty to its bleakness, and it actually looks like it's quite Game of Thronesy.
Yeah, it is. It's. I remember it being very cold and very wet, and there were no leaves on any of the trees.
No, it's very grey. It's very it's kind of nice, but that's probably where my compliments end. Right. And I think this film has 3 problems that I identified. I watched it again the other day. I had to watch it in 2 sittings. And there's 3 problems with this movie that make it, unfortunately, a stinker.
I'm trying to see if Danny Webb is in this sort of group photo. And I have a horrible feeling that he's the one standing behind Patrick Bergin, and you can only see one eye.
Yeah, he is. That's him.
That's Danny Webb there, my friend, who you can't quite see properly.
Yeah, you can just see him between his neck and over his shoulder and his neck.
Yeah.
It's like, Danny, if you can't see the camera can't see you.
Well, I guess he could see part of the camera, but
or maybe he realized that he wasn't in a very good film and he just decided to hide this one out.
That I wouldn't put that past him. Owen Teale clearly is strutting his stuff and going, yeah, I'll get on the end. I've got my big padded jacket on. I'm definitely gonna. So, okay, you tell me the 3 things that you think let it down, and I'll tell you my 3 things.
Okay, let's see if they overlap. All right, so the 3 problems with this film is 1, the biggest problem is the lead. Patrick Bergin was shockingly miscast as Robin Hood. He is not what you need for a Robin Hood.
Mm.
His acting in this is all over the place.
It's like he's acting in a different movie. I
Yeah,
thought.
yeah, absolutely. He is all over the place, and he is much better as a villain because I actually think they missed the opportunity. He should have played one of the two villains.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you had put him in those villains, I reckon he actually would have been a terrific villain because he was great as a villain in Patriot Games with Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And he was also an excellent villain in Sleeping with the Enemy. And I think that's Patrick Bergen's thing because he looks shifty, he's thin, he's gaunt, he's got untrustworthy eyes, the moustache. He's a villain. He's a good villain. Don't put him in the hero role. He doesn't suit it.
Who would you have cast as Robin Hood, British actor around that time, 80s?
Well, here's the thing. There were 3 Robin Hood films all competing to get up at this time.
Right.
And the third one that just stumbled out the gate and never happened was actually supposed to be Liam Neeson as Robin Hood.
That would have been interesting.
I think if Liam Neeson could have jumped over into this production and been Robin Hood in this film, and Patrick Bergen took over the villain of the one the French actor played,
Jerome Craig,
yeah. I reckon if you had put Liam Neeson and then bumped him over, I think you would have got a pretty good movie.
Right.
However, that leads me to problem number 2.
Yeah.
This movie has an identity crisis. It doesn't know what it wants to be, and its tone is all over the place.
I remember there's a scene where there's something like, again, I haven't seen it for a long time, but there's something like, well, how are we going to get into the castle? Oh, well, we'll do a Mayfest. Everybody wants to go to the Mayfest or the May March. Or,
it was the All Fool's Day, and they have to let us in.
All Fool's Day. So we're all going to dress up in silly costumes and they'll let us in. And I was like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, it's just bizarre. But what it is, and this is what I mean by an identity crisis, and I think this is something that all filmmakers need to know when they go into a movie, is you got to know your tone. What is the tone you're going for? Yeah. And if you don't know your tone, you end up wildly swinging between 2 separate tones that don't make sense. And this film is if you want to get a movie and show someone a movie about what happens when you don't know your tone and you have an identity crisis, this is a great film to study. You've got a grey, grim, beautiful, but grey, grim, dark, depressing, and almost quite realistic looking medieval depiction. But it's riffing too much on the, aha, I'm Robin Hood of the 1930s version. Yeah. The merry men, and Robin is this kind of playful jokester, and it's trying to retain some of that, but put it into this grim context, and it doesn't work. Whereas Kevin Costner's film just went, forget about that old tone, forget that Robin Hood, we're going to give you a whole new thing. And they knew exactly the tone that they were going for, and they stuck the landing. This film, that's why Patrick, like I said, he acts like he's in a different movie, because sometimes he's just acting so cavalier and almost silly. It starts to become almost Monty Python-ish.
Yeah,
and it's just all over the place.
They said that they were aiming for a throwback to the 38 swashbuckler, but I mean, I don't know why they thought that was a good idea.
But the thing is, Kevin Costner's film got that swashbuckler right.
Right.
But it still changed it up. But this one doesn't get it right because it doesn't know its tone.
The film bombed at the box office. It didn't even make back $1 million
I think it deserved it. I often thought that going back watching this again, that maybe this was actually a much smarter, a more grounded, dirty, gritty film that maybe was misunderstood. And then watching it again, you would realize actually this is not a big Robin Hood, but it's a good Robin Hood. But it's not. It's not.
Well, my 3 things definitely overlap. First of all, number 1, I had the same issue with Bergen. He's making a lot of jokes in it at different times, which just completely fall flat. Leroy's just asked about Men in Tights, mate. I thought that film was absolutely pants. It had like three funny jokes in it, and that was it.
I remember when I watched Robin Hood Men in Tights. I was actually really excited to see it. But
I
honestly,
was excited. I thought it was going to be funny, but it was clearly after Mel Brooks's day.
After I was like, no. Even then, with the fratty humor I liked in those days, I was like, oh, this isn't very good. This is not funny.
Yeah, no, it wasn't good.
I think it had like 3 moments where you kind of go,
yeah.
And
yeah, like when the castle gets towed away on wheels was the only joke I can remember laughing at.
And I think I liked the mole that kept moving, and that was about it.
I thought that was from Caddyshack. But anyway, so Patrick Bergin, didn't like him. That was number one. Number two, him and Uma Thurman had no chemistry together whatsoever.
No chemistry. Uma Thurman was terrible in this
film. She was terrible. He was terrible. You could tell they probably didn't get on. They had no chemistry, therefore, and they were at the heart of the movie. Yeah. Therefore, that completely fell flat. The third thing about it was typified by how little I can remember it, is nothing about the film was memorable.
No.
The script was completely unmemorable. I can't think of one shot in the film where I went, oh my God, that was a great shot, even though this film was a bit naff. That was a great shot. I could roll off 20 shots in Prince of Thieves right now. You know, like when he splits the arrow, shoots the two guys, where you first see the bloke with the broken nose again, where you get the flaming arrow going, where you get the catapults going in, the shot where the bridge breaks and the two guys fall down. The first time we see all the burning arrows being lit.
That's right. Costner putting his hand.
Go on. Yeah.
Costner putting his hand with the burning, with the flaming sword, like everything you could. Yeah.
His brother getting the arrow in the back as he gets out the hole from the guy on the wall that's like staged in the back, and you can tell that's all a pretty much an interior set. It's just another corridor. Actually, that's part of Alan's big set for. By the way, here's the set for Robin Hood, guys, with the art director Alan Tompkins on it. There we go.
Yeah, but this Robin Hood from '91, it does not have anything in it that sticks. In the brain.
So everything was totally forgettable. I mean, the music's by Jeffrey Bergen. I don't even know who he is. He's dead now, 2010.
That was my third. I didn't get to my third problem with this film. The music.
Yeah, it's crap, isn't it?
The music is so bad. It's not like, it's just sort of mediocre. It's not as good as Robin Hood. No. The music is all wrong.
Yeah.
When a scene, I was watching it last night. I finished it last night, and there was a scene when I thought you're just about to go into the big end battle, and then the music started up, and I went, "Oh my God, you just killed the tension."
That end battle's not good either, is it?
The music just told us, like, music tells the audience in a way what you should be feeling, right? Or how things are going to go, or what's coming up. This music told you everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. It's all la 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 la, sort of jovial, silly music. And this is what this film swings between. It swings between stupidity and frivolous, almost silliness, and then has a guy in a crow's cage with maggots all over his eyes.
Yeah, I remember now. Funny enough, you mentioned that shot. I do remember it, but only because you mentioned it.
That's right. But and that's a really horrible image that shows that, wow, this is a dangerous, gritty medieval world where people get put in crow's cages, have their eyes gouged out, and there's maggots on his head. But then the very next scene, you've got people in those ridiculous All Fool's Day costumes, like bonking soldiers on the head and going, oh,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
going, what the?
That was all like proper pants, man.
And that's what I mean. It's an identity crisis. The director, the writers, they had no idea. Are they making Errol Flynn, or are they making something else? Are they making something more grounded and realistic? And it seemed like they were trying to do both, and you cannot do both.
I'm trying to find a shot of Danny Webb from the movie, because
I would make the argument that if you had simply made this a grounded character drama with a bit of action in it, but you showed this, clearly they had the money for it, to make a grounded gritty, more realistic take on the Robin Hood story, where it really showed that time, and you actually went away from the swashbuckler, this could have been a really interesting film.
Yeah.
But what they tried
agreed.
to do is they wanted both. We want it to be gritty, we want it to be modern, but we also want it to be playful and fun. And it's like, guys, you can't have both. You've got to stick to one.
There's my friend Danny Webb from the movie. Oh, that's the only shot I can find.
But again, such a great actor, didn't give him enough to do, and didn't give him enough work, didn't give him enough character to play with.
But it's like you said about the last film. You can remember everybody, like even the small, the small roles, like the priest who's corrupted. He's only in 3 scenes.
That's
you
right.
remember him. You can even remember the guy with the big nose who follows Alan Rickman around, who's like his accountant. Who I think in the extended cut has got more scenes, but in the original cut's only got like 2 lines.
Yes. You remember the maiden that helps Maid Marian around. You remember her.
Yeah.
But you cannot boil down or distinguish any other characters in this film, and it's written so poorly. And this is one of the things that I thought that this was the cardinal sin of this Robin Hood.
Yeah, well,
they made their hero, Robin Hood, they made him stupid.
He was just stupid. He wasn't just stupid. He was just a bit dull.
Well, he was a dull character. 1 minute he's like facing off against, he's having these serious conversations with his adversary, going, you Normans have done this, and we Saxons that. And he seems like he's like a nobleman trying to grapple with the problems of the time. But then he has his fight with Little John on this like 2-foot bridge across a tiny little creek. And he's acting like a fool. And he's getting knocked on the head. And then he's going down the river going, help, 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 help. I can't swim. And you're like, are you an idiot?
Yeah, there were moments of the film that definitely felt like they were kind of like Laurel and Hardy territory.
Yeah, and making
him regret splashing good monies out on your German Blu-ray.
No, I got it for free. The company, because they released my film, they gave me a free copy.
That's right.
And also, there's a scene with Robin Hood, right? Maid Marian joins the Merry Men by cutting her hair and pretending she's a boy.
I remember that.
And she's so obviously not a boy.
I know.
It's obviously
so dumb, that scene.
And so you got Robin Hood. He's fallen in love with this beautiful Uma Thurman, and he says, I've fallen in love with her. I'm so in love. That's like, mate, you can't recognize her when she's standing in front of you with a haircut. It's her. The woman you love is standing in front of you. And for like half an hour of the movie, he still doesn't know it's her. And even
that whole storyline just was completely implausible nonsense.
And then she kisses him, and he doesn't think anything of it, and he still hasn't figured it out. And you go, oh my God, you have made your hero a complete idiot. How can I get behind this Robin Hood when you have made him an idiot?
Yeah.
Cardinal sin. You've destroyed your hero by making him a complete fool.
So, Matt, what do you want to give Patrick Bergin's Robin Hood out of 10? What do you reckon?
I'm sorry, Patrick, and I'm sorry, John Irwin, and everyone who worked so hard, but I tried to give this film a second chance, but I'm sorry, I'm going to have to give this one a big 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a 4, and that's based on when I saw it back then. If I watched it now, I have a feeling I might go lower.
3.
Matt and I say that with respect because we are both filmmakers. We've both worked on different types of films. We've both had films falling out from under our feet. We know how difficult these things can be. We know how complex it can be. We know
I'm not even trying to compare this to Prince of Thieves because I know they had more money.
Purely as a film in its own right, it just doesn't hold up. Even trying to be a more grounded, kind of maybe slightly more historically accurate, but just still has just tons of nonsense in it. Really,
I'm gonna give it that score because they clearly had the money to do better. They clearly could have done something better. I will say Some of the sets look really good. Some look freaking awful. But some of them look good. Some of the costumes and the cinematography are good, but they're the only things I can give it any score on. Everything else, acting, writing, direction, sound, music, the choreography, it looks like they didn't give Patrick any training at all for anything.
The sword fights are not great in it.
He comes out to sword fight, and the way he's holding his body and the way he runs, it looks like he's been given no physical training at all. He has the most weird way of standing. He looks so pathetic. His wrists look all floppy as he's doing this. It's just terrible. So I'm sorry, guys. 3 out of 10. It's a scrap heap film. Don't bother. It's a waste of time. You won't remember anything. I think fair and square, Kevin Costner won the race, and made, I think, arguably the best Robin Hood to date.
Well, yeah, I don't think there's anything else we can say about that film other than if you're going to watch one of the two, watch Prince of Thieves. Now, I'm about to have my next novel come out. Did I mention that before? I may have mentioned
You might have once, twice.
So those 8 people watching right now, I'm going to show you the cover for the first time. It's not been shown publicly anywhere yet. And this is based on my, well, it's not based on, it's a literal transcribing of my diary, a diary I thought was lost, which I kept almost every day from 1988. And I recorded all the films that I saw in it. And what I've done is I've gone back and I've transcribed the diary. And the older version of me has commented on the entries made by the younger version of me, often berating myself for my ridiculous and stupid choices. And I've also reviewed all the films in it. And it's called 1988. And here is the cover of the book.
Cool.
Which I've just done recently. You may feel that this poster looks familiar in some ways, because 1988 was the year that Die Hard came out. It was my favorite film of that year. I saw it 6 times in America, and then I took a load of people to see it in the States. When it was out at the London Film Festival that year. And
it is a classic.
I'm hoping you guys will find this book funny. I mean, you've got to remember, I was a teenager when I kept this diary. There's teenage Lance, and this is the first year, Leroy, that I came to the States. So I worked in upstate New York on a summer camp called Camp Northwood. There we all are at the summer camp. Now, on the left here, this is a girl called Jocelyn Steele, who was my absolute favorite camper. Just a really sweet, kind person. And I remember they would have a big dance for the kids every Saturday. And I don't think anybody had asked her to dance. So as counselors, we were told, if the kids are sad and someone hasn't danced with them, you should go and give them a dance, kind of thing. And I'll never forget this. I think it was Geordie, who was the second in command of the camp, as it were, turned around to me and said, Lance, can you dance with Jocelyn? And I felt a bit uneasy about it because I was a counsellor and they were the kids, So it felt a bit weird. But I guess it was more about kind of them not being upset and being made to feel like they weren't special. So that was the picture that somebody took of us. I think just as we had that dance. Now, the funny thing is she's 2 years older than me in that photo. She had some learning disabilities. But anyway, I contacted her recently. I found her after a hiatus of about 30 years, and she lives in Ridgefield, Connecticut, and is involved in this wonderful organization called Spear, which does really lovely work with different people in the community. They do plays, and they're doing West Side Story. And she says she's got a part in West Side Story, and she actually emailed me yesterday and said, would I come and see it in 2024 when she's in it? God, they plan far ahead. 2024 already. I'm not sure I can get out to America in 2024, Jocelyn, but if I can be there, I absolutely will be there. But I'm not sure I can get out there. But Jocelyn is mentioned in the diary, as is that night where I had a dance with her. By the way, I was only too happy to have a dance with her because she was absolutely beautiful. There was a lot of really nice people on that camp. This top picture is of the kids that I went to college with, and unfortunately, the one in the left-hand corner there, that is Guy Foster. I tried to trace him last year and found out he'd committed suicide, which was really sad. Now, Midnight Run that Jim has just mentioned. Now, there's a massive section, Jim, about Midnight Run in this book. In fact, I'll tell you now that I saw 135 films that year, and there's reviews of nearly all of them in the book. Not all of them. I mention them all. There's a list of all of them at the front, but I do reviews of them as I go through the diary when I see them. And you'll see that pretty much every day off that I got when I was in America, I went to the mall and I would see 4 films in a row, which is the sort of thing that Matt probably would have done back then.
I didn't see that many films in a row. I couldn't afford that.
Did you never do that once? You never like went to a mall and dude, I only paid for one ticket. I'd pay for one movie and then I'd go and see one film after another. Leroy, I didn't have a lot of free time in 85. So I was at college. I had 2 jobs. I worked at a video store, but I also worked at a cinema, Leroy. So I was working at a cinema and I went to the London Film Festival and I went to America where all your films were 6 months ahead of ours. And of course, we had slightly different movies out over here. So, but I'm really going to be interested to see what people think of this book. It's going to be out on Amazon, on Kindle, and paperback. I've just ordered the proof copy. I think I've still got a bit of work to do on it, but there's some bits and pieces on it, and I need to get in some of the music stuff. But I think you guys are probably going to find it interesting. But just be warned, it does read a bit like a season of Dawson's Creek.
Well,
so
that's going to be that sort of stands to reason.
Well,
it is 1988 and you were a young man.
I talk about, I fancy this girl, how am I going to ask her out? And there's stuff like the young me puts an entry, right, I'm going to write this girl a poem, and the older me goes, oh fuck me, no, Lance, what are you thinking? So there's a lot of, it's quite fun, the older me having a go at the younger me with the book and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of Beverly Hills Cop. The first one of those, that came out in, I want to say 85. And I think Beverly Hills Cop 2 was 87. 85 was the first one. Has Hugo awoken? Is that the Hugo? No, I thought Hugo was advancing up your leg there for a minute. So
no, he's still out. He's still locked out.
So we're coming up to the 2-hour wrap, guys. So we're probably going to wrap this up in a sec.
Yeah.
We've got 10 people watching, which is great. And by the way, I noticed we have more people than we had last week. Matt and I are going to try and do this every week. Now, just as a caveat, next Tuesday is the night before the opening night of my play. I think we should schedule something anyway, and maybe then we'll postpone it if I'm too tired. I'd rather keep these going on a regular basis. I think it's quite important to do the same spot every time. So what suggestions have we got? We've got the Musketeers, maybe an older Musketeers and the Sutherland Musketeers.
There's Musketeers. I know we were going to do an Alexander and Kingdom of Heaven retrospective.
I still haven't been able to get my hands on the directors, the ultimate
the ultimate cut
of Alexander, but I definitely do want to do that. I'm a big fan of Kingdom of Heaven. I really like Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Even though Orlando Bloom is not quite strong enough to lead it, but
no, he's the weakest link, but he doesn't bring the movie down.
No, and he admitted that as well when he watched the film afterwards. He was like, man, I needed to learn my craft a bit more before taking on a role of that. He said that on a radio interview. I remember it, and I thought that's very big of you to
Yeah.
step back and be self-critical like that in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, I've got some dog stuff to show you here.
But yeah, what as far as retrospectives, I think I've lost my piece of paper where I had written some of these down.
Hang on. I better mute this. This is Melissa from the Outcast, mate. These are her two cute dogs. I think
they look like cute little rascals.
They are, yeah. By the way, this is a big dogs fan channel for me and Matt are both like massive dogs lovers. Kingdom of Heaven director's cut is magnificent. It's such a different movie.
Such a different, and it's a movie that it should have been.
It's so good. When I went to see that at the cinema and I watched it, I was like, it feels like there's bits missing. Where I don't know where I am. Who's this person now? What's this? Now we're here. What's going on? And then I saw the director's cut and I was like, oh my God, why didn't they leave this alone in the first place? You know,
it's a classic example of we've got to cut the runtime. You know, you're getting cold feet and just butchering the film. So,
Josh, I think I'm not quite on the 4th. I've got enough subscribers, but I'm not on the 4,000 watch hours just yet.
What does that mean?
That's how many I need to get so the channel can become monetized, so people can pay for super chats when they're watching a stream. So to guarantee that we read out something. So somebody might put a super chat that says, hey, tell me where Matthew Holmes's barber is. I've got to get that haircut. And then we have to put that up. In fact, that should be the first super chat. So if anyone's listening, make a note of that. And we'll make sure that Matthew's hair gets mentioned on the first. Dante's Peak versus Volcano. I mean, those are two pretty average movies, in my opinion. I do like disaster films.
Volcano is a Volcano.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, it's a pretty average film. I actually really like Dante's Peak. I actually think that's a really good film. A simple film, but done very well.
Pierce Brosnan in the truck driving around a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Big gets hit by a big windstorm at one point, and the truck gets like blown through the. I remember that scene was quite good.
No, I don't recall anything like that.
I'll tell you what would be good.
That sounds like a James Bond film.
No. They were trying to outrun like the cloud of the Dante's Peak in the truck.
Oh, it comes behind them, but it doesn't blow him off course. It just comes behind him.
It lifts the wheels up a bit or something. I don't mean full Bond. You know what might work would be Dante's Peak and it's gone now. There's another disaster movie I thought of that was around at the time that was quite good. I'll tell you, we could also do Armageddon and the other one about the asteroid.
Yeah. Cheap Impact.
Cheap Impact and Armageddon, or Armageddon and the Core.
Yeah, Deep Impact. Here's a pair of films that I'd like to discuss. I'll just pull them from the shelf. One sec.
Yeah. Go for it. Those guys who are in chat, if you've got suggestions, let us know, because Matt and I are going to do these compare and contrast on a fairly regular basis. And we'd love to have you guys along for the show every week. And we like talking about stuff we like, but we won't be shy to.
All right. Here's two.
Here we go. What you got?
Okay. These are two films that I adore, both of them. So it's not going to be a hate thing. Okay. I think both of these films are so magnificent, and they're very similar setups and similar things, but very different films, but both wonderful movies. The Edge, Edge and The Grey.
Okay, so I've seen them both. The Edge is the one with the bear.
This is the bear.
Yeah.
And this is the one with the wolves.
Yeah, I actually really like The Grey. I particularly like The Grey. The Edge is there's a photographer with them initially in The Edge. There are like three of them, and he's the guy with the red Star Trek shirt on.
Yes, that's right.
Gary Bolter's got a suggestion. Ghostbusters 84 and the shit reboot. I'll tell you what, Gary, we'll do that one if you come on the stream with us.
You know what? I think, Gary, that's a good one for you to do with Lance. And the reason why, I've never seen Ghostbusters 1, and I certainly don't want to watch the remake.
You've never seen the original Ghostbusters? That's Matt. You've got to watch that, man.
I have seen it enough, like in all.
Yeah, the fun of it's been taken out. You see,
and
I went to see that film and I'd seen nothing. I hadn't even seen the trailer for the movie when I went to see that movie.
No, I never saw it, and of course I saw enough of it to put it all together in my head over the years. I've never sat and watched the whole thing. I could tell you scenes, lines from it, but I've never actually watched it. I've absorbed it through pop culture, but I've never actually watched it.
I'm now going to use the power of my magic powers to answer Josh's question in advance. The answer is no. Here's the question. Do you guys think you'll see the woke Little Mermaid remake and see how it turns out? I've just predicted the future, Josh. Amazing.
Wow.
Now all I need to do is win the lottery and I'll be brilliant.
I want to answer this question, and I want to answer this question. Do I want to see the Little Mermaid? No, I don't. But I'll tell you why. I don't want to give Disney another dollar, and I'm not going to give Disney any more money. They have no more money for Disney from me. It's my moral. I've drawn my moral line in the sand. I'm sick of them destroying things. I think they are a creatively bankrupt company now. I'm sick of remakes, reboots, rehashes, and I think I don't even care about old Disney cartoons. And I watched them and loved them as I was a kid, but I've very much since abandoned and don't care about. I hardly own any Disney movies from that era. I really did like The Little Mermaid when it came out when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I just think this one. I mean, I couldn't give two shits about the race swapping.
Oh no, I don't care about that. Actually,
I don't care at all. Like, whatever. Like, I don't mind. In fact, you know what? I wouldn't even mind if Disney were like, we're going to do the Little Mermaid, but we're going to do something different. But they're not. They're just taking that and they're going to make the same damn film with the same damn songs and everything that you know, and they're just going to do it worse. And they're going to do it with a bunch of CGI. Why would I want to watch that? It's just, I've seen that film already. And I think that's what going back to topical, Robin Hood, that's why Prince of Thieves is so good. It took what you knew and it spun it in a whole new direction and did something amazing. They're not going to do that with Little Mermaid. I'm not the target audience anyway. So I'm a 46-year-old dude who doesn't give a shit about Disney films. I'm not the target audience for that movie. I'm not going to go see it.
Yeah, I mean, and they haven't even got the seashell kind of...
I was a bit disappointed. I was like, really, guys? You're not going with the seashells?
Yeah.
That sucks. Because
the costume design, I mean, my friend Lorena Creole, who's got a great channel on YouTube, she does a lot of theme park stuff, but she's an old school Disney nerd. I think if I ever got to go around her house, I suspect all her bedclothes would be like Mickey Mouse emblems, and she's probably got a Mickey Mouse alarm clock, and she's probably got Minnie Mouse fluffy slippers. She's got a customized Disney number plate. She's got the Disney castle, and she's really upset with Disney. She's upset with them over the Little Mermaid.
Who isn't upset with Disney?
So,
they foul up everything right now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to blame. I know that. I mean, I don't like using the term woke because I think it's too big an umbrella and there's too much. There's too much baggage attached to that word.
Well, Drink has said it best. The one thing that's missing with the use of that word is nuance, and it means different things to different people at different times.
Exactly. So I think I don't like using the word woke, but what I don't like about the Disney remakes and why I refuse to watch them is because I think they're distorting the stories. Disney's stories, there's all these stories have morals to them. They have, you do this, and this happens, and this is the lesson, and this is what you learn as a child through the Disney story. Yes, they're different to the Grimm fairy tales. We know that. But there's something positive. Usually there's something very positive to take away. And in their attempt to modernize it, they change that message and they actually twist it because they don't understand it. And I think that's what really bothers me is that they distort the story, and now you go, what am I supposed to take away from this? What am I
Yeah.
what does this mean now? This is not any lesson for any children to aspire to. They've tried to, they think they're doing that, but they're actually not. And that's why I want nothing to do with those.
Leroy agrees with you on that, Matthew.
On that part, he says. I'm not sure what part that is, but
I think the last statement you just made, Josh Levesque, who's one of my mods. Josh, you weren't in earlier when I shared the cover of my next book. There it is, quickly, mate. I don't want to keep it up too long because we've already talked about it. But that'll be out in a couple of weeks on Amazon. My diary from 1988. Woohoo! Hang on, what happened there?
Oh, here's a good suggestion from Jim D. The Game, Fight Club, and Panic Room.
Yeah, The Game and Fight Club would be good to do because they've both got slightly surreal, am I in the real world or not elements. And I actually, do you know what? I would like to watch Fight Club again because I didn't like it when it came out. And I'm the only person I know who didn't like that film.
I didn't like Fight Club when it came out.
Oh, well, you and I agree on quite a lot, so that doesn't surprise me.
But I have to say, I freaking love Fight Club now.
But you're not allowed to tell people that you freaking love Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club. I remember. Well, look, I saw it at the cinema. I've never seen it since. What's that? 92, something like that. It's a 90s movie.
No. That was like 97.
97, that's right. So I would like to do that. I would definitely like to do Fight Club and The Game. I think The Game is a very underrated movie.
A great film.
I saw that at the cinema. I love that whole scene at the beginning. I wish I could go back. Yeah, I wish I could. You're lucky, man. I wish I could go back. So yeah, that would be a good one to do. The problem is whether I've got time. I need to sit down and watch Fight Club properly because I haven't seen it since then. Whether I've got time to do that between now and the show opening, I'm not sure. Maybe I really need to watch The Game again too. I have seen that since I saw it at the cinema, but not for a long time. But I'm going to write those down. Let me write those down because that's definitely a good combo right there. Who suggested that? It was Jim. Good one, Jim.
I know someone suggested the Indiana Jones films, but there's nothing to say. There's nothing to say there. There's
first one's amazing, second one's okay, third one's good, fourth one's shit, and the fifth one looks awful.
Yeah,
there you go. We've done it.
That's it.
We did it already.
That's all you could say. There are 3 Indiana Jones films. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. There's a weird fake thing that says it's an Indiana Jones film, but that came out in the 2000s. That's not an Indiana Jones film. That is just a weird knockoff.
I've got this list written under my notes. It says duos with Matt, but that sounds dodgy somehow. Anyway, okay, so
duos,
duos as in 2 films, not as in some other kind of scenario. Fight Club and The Game. We talked about the Musketeer movie. So the
Rocky and the Creed. I've never seen any of the Creed films, and I've only seen Rocky 1.
They're not. I mean, that's. We're not looking to do films that are part of the same series. What we want to do is talk about 2 films that are in a similar genre, that try to do similar things, but are different. And they might both be good, they might both be crap, but we're going to talk about them. And
I think it's the contrast and compare. I think is interesting to always see and I guess this is what I found really surprising about the Robin Hood is that you've got essentially the same story and genre made at exactly the same time. Yeah. And you give it to 2 different groups of artists. Yeah. And then you see what they come up with. And it's like you're kind of comparing apples with apples now. And it's like, wow, they're different, like really different. And it shows you how important the director, the writer, the casting and everything is, because all these things are going to ultimately add up to what's good, what's bad. And
actually even though I said we wouldn't do 2 in a series, we did say we might do Alien 3 and 4. Now that is quite interesting, I think, because
Let's do Alien 3 and 4 next week. I want to do that.
Actually, let's do Alien 3 and 4 next week. Alien 3 director's cut, right?
Correct. Alien 3 director's cut and Alien 4, because I don't need to watch anything between now and then. I know those films very well. So let's do Alien.
I'll need to watch them both again, but I can stick one of them on now.
And what's nice is there's a bit of a Danny Webb follow over. We just saw something with Danny Webb, and now we're watching Danny Webb. Danny Webb is one of my favorite things in Alien 3.
And also the American Danny Webb is in Alien 4. That guy who looks exactly like Danny Webb. I could, and even Danny knows who I'm talking about. I've had a conversation with him, and as soon as I said to him, you know the American Danny Webb is in Alien 4, and he said, I know, you're about the 20th person to have told me that. And I think the actor's name is Josh. Hang on, I'm gonna show you exactly who I'm talking about, and you'll see what I mean. So in Alien Resurrection, this guy is also in Saving Private Ryan. He's a glider pilot.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
So we drop like a fucking hammer, blah 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 blah. And the actor's name is
he showed up
Leland Orser.
He showed up in lots of films around that time.
Right. I mean, he's a great actor. He's still a jobbing actor now.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have. Doing that thing, dude. It's not loading up again. My IMDb keeps messing me about. Don't know why.
Well, that's definitely something worth discussing, and I don't suppose there's any way Danny Webb can drop in, but
hey, I'll mention it. Listen, we've had him on the channel before. Were you on that?
Well, look, I'd love to talk to him, because he honestly, I swear to God, this is not because you know him. He is my favorite character in Alien 3.
Well, you know what? I'll hang on a minute.
Like me and my cinematographer.
I'm going to record that for him on his voicemail, and we'll see if we can get him on. God, I hope this doesn't wake him up. So
don't wake him up. Don't wake him up. It's too late, man. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. Don't do that. Now, you know what? You can play this back and record it off your screen.
Oh yeah. I'll do it at a more reasonable hour. Why didn't I think of that? No wonder you're on the show. You stop me from doing these stupid things.
Well, it's because it's early morning for me, and it's early morning for me. It's a late night for you.
We'll do that one next week. Leroy Peters has suggested a great one. We Were Soldiers and Black Hawk Down. That's a good one.
All right, we'll add that. We'll add that to the list. But let's do Aliens. Let's do Alien next week.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you another one we've got to do, because you still haven't seen The Long Good Friday with Bob Hoskins. So when you come in July, we're going to watch that because you and I are going to do a movie every night you're here that you haven't seen, and we'll do The Long Good Friday, and we'll do Rise of the Foot Soldier, 2 British gangster films made decades apart with very different styles and ideologies. I'm not going to actually say even which one I prefer. I think we should just watch them.
Yeah.
Greg Moss, if you go to industry interviews, on the industry interviews section of the Outcast Creative YouTube channel, there is an interview with Danny Webb. We've had him on the show. So my mic's blocking off my frame there. We've had him on the show. He did talk about Alien 3. We've also had Phil Davis on the show, who's also in Alien 3 and plays a cool character.
Wouldn't be great to have him drop in.
We've had two of the cast from Alien 3 are on the channel. You can go and look at their interviews right now. They're on there, so do check.
Hey, Greg. Greg Moss is the co-writer of the last couple of films that I've made, The Cost, and also Fear Below, and the co-writer of a new script that we've just done a first draft on. So
yeah,
hello, Greg. Good morning.
Very young Pierce Brosnan is in The Long Good Friday. So is Darragh O'Malley, and we'll get onto that when we do that stream. But Greg, by the way, just going to tell you, mate, that I was the first person to watch The Cost on the planet, apart from anyone connected with the film, and I loved it. Thought it was really good. Great writing, great acting, great direction, of course. Good editing too. I just thought it was a cracking little film. So big shout to you. Well done. Thin Red Line versus Saving Private Ryan. Yeah, I'm not sure they're in the same camp. The only thing that they're in the same camp is they're 2 films set in World War II.
And they came out in the same year.
I think the success of Ryan definitely got Thin Red Line finance.
Well, actually, they were shooting at a similar time. Look, it's not a bad suggestion, because here you go. You got 2 World War II films made at almost an identical time. I think they were like 9 months apart, but they couldn't be more different from each other.
Have you seen the director's cut of the Big Red One?
No, I haven't seen the Big Red One ever.
Well, I've got that, so that's another one we're going to watch when you're here.
I've been keeping an eye out on the Blu-ray market for a copy, but I never see it at a price that I can afford.
That shop that you bought the big fuck off stack of Blu-rays from last time is still there, Matthew.
I'm going there, and
we'll go down there and with a big holdall.
Look at the gaps. That's how many English Blu-rays I want to come home with. In July.
Well, that's a pretty big L shape.
That's a big L shape I need filled with movies. So we'll do that in July, and that'll be fun.
I think I'm not going to put it up, but I think in the chat Josh has uttered something about MCU, and he knows full well that I have no interest in superhero films or TV shows. I'm bored of them. I don't care. I'm just bored. I'm just
the
MCU,
all the
fucking same. I just don't want to watch them anymore.
Everyone's talked about the MCU. I want to go back I want to look at films and talk about films that, I don't know, there's some art to them, and because I think film is art, and I think anything with Disney and the Marvel Cinematic Universe stopped being art a long time ago.
No, listen, man, I totally agree. You know what? I think we might even watch this batshit crazy movie when you're here. The Seventh Curse. It's it's the Oriental, or I guess you call it. Sorry, that's a terrible word. I'm not supposed to say that. Asian cinema, right? So I'm sorry. I was brought up in the generation where we did use that term quite a lot. I do realise it's offensive now. Do apologise. But Asian cinema. This is Asian cinema's answer to Big Trouble in Little China in the 80s. And it is absolutely nuts crazy.
It looks nuts crazy.
I mean, it is. But it will be one of those films where we're watching and we'll be going, what the fuck's happening? But it'll be fun. Like, what the hell?
On a couple of glasses of wine, I think it'll be fun.
Mate, there will definitely be lots of wine when you're here. In fact, I'm gonna have a period of dryness in anticipation of your arrival, so I think I'm going to have a sober first couple of weeks of July. All right, guys. So listen, we're going to wrap it up there. This has been a wicked stream. I love doing these.
Yep, and thank you for all of your great suggestions, everybody who joined us. There's definitely some excellent film suggestions, and we'll definitely come back this time next week, and we will talk. We will rip to pieces Alien 3, Alien 4. We will look at the making of them, the production problems behind them, and just general discussing the I guess what you call the end of a beloved franchise.
And we're going to do. Don't forget, we're going to be doing the director's cut of Alien 3.
Absolutely,
which is a pretty different film from. Alien
from the theatrical,
from the original release. Just before we go, just going to remind people that we do have a play on in London. I know it's mostly American people that are watching right this time, but we have a play on in London twice in June at 2 different venues. The information I'll put up now. There's the first venue info. You can find it on the Outcast Creative page. All of those kinds of things about the biggest miscarriage of justice in British history. I've actually been rehearsing it this evening. While Matt and I go off, I'm going to leave you with a quick little preview of it, and you can see everybody rehearsing it in my kitchen. And if you look closely, you'll see quite a lot of Star Trek ships on the shelves. So keep an eye out for those. In the meantime, from Matt and I, we'll see you next Tuesday. Great having you on. Spread the word about the stream. We're going to try and do these every week. And remember what I always say, don't forget to tell the people that you care about in your life that you love them. And we'll see you soon.
False Accounts is based on an ongoing political story. that highlights the biggest post office scandal in British history.
Hi, my name's Alex Heaton and I'm playing Auditor 1 and Chris Ojard in False Accounts.
It's a very powerful script. It's also very funny, which I think helps sell the story.
Hi, I'm Francesca Morago. I'll be playing Fujitsu IT, one of many multiple characters we'll be playing in this show.
A seminal, moving and quite shocking.
Innocent people being accused.
It's a really important story about ordinary people who are part of the community that have had injustices against them, like it's horrific things that have happened to them, and I think this is just a way of giving them a voice and having their story be told.
Before I joined this, I didn't know too much about it, and I think far too many people don't know enough about this story and just how bad it is, really.
People should come and see this play because it tells a story that needs to be heard.
No one's been brought to justice for it, and the people are still suffering to this day.
I'd say it's important, a little bit terrifying, and also a little bit silly.
Join us at the Oso Theatre in Barnes from the 31st of May to the 4th of June.
All right, guys, thanks very much for being with us again. And I'm going to see you all again real soon. Great that we had a nice little group of people watching and that you were so interactive. I really appreciate you. Do like and subscribe. Spread the word about the channel. I absolutely love running this channel. I can't tell you how much it's helped me through some quite difficult times having this to focus on. So I really do appreciate you all, and I'll see you again soon.